Bonjour à tous, bienvenue pour cette deuxième journée du Océan Pavilion. Welcome everybody. I welcome you to sit here and to install you in your sofa at home. Donc merci d'avoir accepté cette invitation à nouveau pour parler de l'océan aujourd'hui. Puis bien.
Thank you for having accepted this invitation to come and talk about the ocean in Surfrider's headquarters. A few technical points. You have two links if you are following via streaming, one in French, one in English, on Surfrider's YouTube channel, on Facebook and Twitter. For those of you who are physically present, you also have headphones available for the interpreting. Channel 1, English, Channel 2, French. So please don't hesitate to use these because both languages will be present today. We are going to begin by talking about biodiversity, which is the lungs of the ocean. And without this biodiversity, there would not be the regulation of the climate. When we talked about fishing quotas, we talk about one single predator, man, and not the entire marine ecosystem. I've invited two eminent representatives, two defenders of biodiversity to come and join us. The first is Monica Verbeek.
But before I speak, I would like to show if technicians are ready a short video. Is that possible? So I hope this short video showed that the ocean is really important. For you, for me, for all of us, even if you're not near the ocean. And actually somebody, a well-known marine explorer and marine biodiversity, marine biologist who has said this very well is Dr. Sylvia Earle. And I'd like to quote her. She said, "Even if you never have the chance to see or touch the ocean touches you. With every breath you take, every drop of water you drink, every bite you consume. Everyone, everywhere is inextricably connected to and utterly dependent on the existence of the sea. We should treat the ocean as if our life depends on it, because it does." So we depend on the ocean. The ocean is the life support system for our planet, and it's crucial for our existence. But the ocean is highly threatened by overexploitation and pollution. And in a few days, the G7 leaders will meet here in Biarritz, as we all know. And we will ask them in an ocean call to show the world leadership and take action to protect our ocean and make it healthy and productive. We have long known what needs to be done to achieve healthy oceans. And today, I want to focus on some of the most urgent measures that governments can and should take now, without delay. Ending overfishing, creating a vast network of marine protected areas, and ensuring that all seas are sustainably managed. Over 70% of our ocean, of our planet is ocean. And it pumps around nutrients, it helps regulating weather patterns, and it produces half the oxygen we breathe. So this means that every second breath we take comes from the ocean. It is, in fact, our blue lung. And millions of people living in coastal communities depend on the ocean for their livelihoods and well-being. And it provides us with food. Fish is the main animal protein source for more than 3 billion people. And it provides us with jobs. Over 300 million people work in fisheries alone. And it provides us with beauty and happiness, also very important. But there's more. The ocean is our protector against the climate crisis, standing between us and the worst effects of the climate breakdown. It has already absorbed 90% of the excess heat in the atmosphere and over 30% of the carbon dioxide. So without this vital climate mitigation capacity of the ocean, the average global temperature would have been much higher. This natural solution is only possible because of the highly complex and integrated ocean ecosystem at work across the planet. But now we are pushing the ocean to its boundaries. The climate breakdown is profoundly damaging the ocean. Temperatures are rising, there are ocean heat waves, sea level is rising, and even the chemical composition of the sea is changing as it is becoming more acid. And these changes impact on numerous aspects of marine life, and they are fundamentally eroding the health and the resilience of the ocean. So the ocean is where life started. And below the water surface, there's a whole world of life with complex ecosystems and millions of new species still to be discovered. But a recent global assessment by a UN body on biodiversity shows that global biodiversity loss is increasing at an alarming pace. In fact, we are in the midst of the 6th mass extinction. And marine biodiversity loss is happening at an even faster pace than on land. The richness in biodiversity of the ocean is like the immune system for a body. If the ocean is rich and healthy, it's better placed to cope with all the inevitable harsh attacks coming from the climate crisis. So, we urgently need to restore the health and the resilience of the ocean. And the only way to do so is by reducing human pressures on the marine environment. And this means first and foremost tackling overfishing and all sorts of pollution, including plastics. And it also means protecting large areas where life can recover. Now, scientists have identified that fisheries has had the largest impact on marine life since 1970. We have been emptying out the ocean, catching way too much fish, and not allowing fish populations the time to replenish themselves. And we are now at a point where nearly 90% of the world's marine fish stocks are exploited to the limits, overexploited or depleted. And in order to catch the diminishing fish, we are going to pristine places where we didn't go before, further and deeper, with invasive techniques which destroy habitats like corals, or remove carbon capturing habitats like seagrass, and catch sea life such as turtles, dolphins and starfish that we do not want to catch, we do not want to eat. Now, I personally quite like shrimp, but to catch shrimps, the sea bottom is being trolled and destroyed, and up to 90% of the creatures caught in a net are discarded. They're not eaten. It's basically like bulldozing a forest to catch some rabbits. Overfishing and destructive fishing methods cause degradation of habitats and extinction of species. They're undermining the resilience of the ocean to climate change. So ending overfishing will have quick and positive effects for our seas, all marine life, and millions of people. Now, world leaders have committed to ending overfishing by 2020, next year. But they've made little progress. In the European Union, countries are even obliged by law to end overfishing by 2020. But the latest statistics show that 69% of European fish stocks are still overfished. Year after year, politicians have ignored the advice of scientists, and they have negotiated catch quota that are really unsustainable. And this has to stop. And now is the last chance to set it straight, because this autumn, the fisheries ministers of the European Union will decide on their fish quota for 2020, the year that overfishing should end. It will be hard, but they have to listen to the scientists and end overfishing. And not just because it's the law, and not just because it will bring back abundant fish populations and an economically viable fishing industry, but also because it will help restore the ocean's resilience to climate change, and therefore our sheer survival. Now, we really need to treasure the ocean as if it were our home. This was already recognized in 2008 by the environment ministers of the European Union, and they agreed to take measures to achieve healthy and productive seas by 2020. It's unique and a very progressive agreement, but with less than 1 year to go, it's clear that implementation is so flawed that we are failing to reach that objective. Our governments really need to step up their efforts. To restore the health of our ocean, we need to reduce the pressures of human activities and, at the same time, provide marine life with safe havens where it can recover. Marine protected areas provide such safe havens, and this is widely acknowledged. World leaders have committed to protect at least 10% of coastal and marine areas by 2020. Since the 2000s, there has always been almost a tenfold increase globally in the coverage of marine areas. And France recently announced it will protect 30% of its marine territory in marine protected areas. But it's not only size that matters, it is also how well are these areas protected. Because in practice, most marine protected areas only exist on paper. They're paper parks. And harmful activities like bottom trawling and gravel extraction continue as usual. And where rules do exist, there's hardly any control. For marine protected areas to really work, they must be free from impacting activities, or only a few low-impact, non-industrial activities can be allowed. And this is currently only the case for 2% of our global oceans. And in Europe, scientists have shown that the intensity of destructive bottom trawling is even higher inside MPAs than outside. So there's more trawling going on in marine protected areas than outside. So that's not really a protected area, is it? Marine protected areas will support the immune system of the ocean if they provide full or high levels of protection and are properly implemented. Now, we have an opportunity to achieve that target by the end of next year. The case for an extensive network of marine protected areas to help boost the health of the oceans has never been clearer, now that we know more and more about the need for a resilient and healthy ocean for our sheer survival. So, in addition to ending overfishing, we call on the G7 leaders to also step up their efforts and dedicate at least 30% of coastal and marine waters to marine protected areas by 2030, and really fully or highly protected areas. And then for the remaining 70%, manage the seas sustainably. We need this to maintain the vital functions of the ocean, which enable all life on Earth. So we call on the G7 leaders to save our ocean, our blue lung. Thank you.
Merci. Merci, Monica. Merci.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you for this first account. Monica was working with a group this morning on what we understand by protecting sea life, and as we've seen, the notion of protection is very subjective and is perhaps not always very efficient, and that is why it's important to hear what she says, to share this information, and to share this passion for the ocean, and on a daily basis to preserve our oceans in our practices. We need to share this with Mathieu Orphelin is here today, and he for many years was represented an NGO called Nature and Man. He was a strong defender in the French Parliament, and he's going to open this session about biodiversity. So thank you for coming, Mathieu.
C'était le piège.
Bonjour. C'est un vrai plaisir d'être avec vous tous et toutes aujourd'hui, de revenir aux Pays Basses. La dernière fois que j'étais venu, c'était à Bayonne pour l'arrivée de l'alternative à Tours. C'était aussi le week-end où le GIEC avait rendu son rapport sur le 1.5 quelques semaines avant la COP24. Et c'est vrai que merci beaucoup à Surfrider Foundation d'organiser ce temps de mobilisation citoyenne. Merci beaucoup à toutes les ONG qui se mobilisent pour faire de ces sujets si importants pour l'humanité des vrais sujets politiques. On a déjà du mal à y arriver, mais sans les ONG, ce sera encore pire. Donc il faut vraiment que les ONG continuent de se mobiliser.
Merci.
On a besoin de cette force de la société civile pour faire avancer les politiques sur tous ces sujets-là. Les océans, les mers, les rivages sont imbriqués dans cet équilibre fragile qu'est l'écosystème planétaire. Ils jouent un rôle essentiel dans la régulation thermique de notre atmosphère et les espaces côtiers ou hauturiers hébergent une richesse bénie de biodiversité dont l'ensemble de la faune et de la flore terrestre dépend. D'une certaine manière, la Grande Bleue est aussi un peu le berceau du vivant. Alors l'humanité, membre à part entière de cette faune terrestre, verra ce week-end les dirigeants des pays les plus prospères se rencontrer ici même à Biarritz. Et ce sera, j'espère, l'occasion pour eux, comme pour nous tous d'ailleurs, de nous rappeler à quel point notre développement, voire notre vie, voire même notre survie, dépend des océans. Rappelons aussi qu'un tiers des humains vivent en zone côtière. Alors merci Surfrider Foundation d'avoir organisé cet événement, parce que est-ce que le G7 parle assez des océans? Clairement non. Regardons par exemple les 5 dernières déclarations finales du G7. Les 5 dernières années, par 2 fois, la question des océans a été complètement passée sous silence. À Bruxelles en 2014, en Italie en 2017. 2 autres fois, ça s'est limité à un petit paragraphe, et principalement sur la pollution plastique. C'était le cas en 2017 en Allemagne ou en 2016 au Japon. Seul le G7 de l'an dernier a été un peu plus prolifique en la matière. La surpêche, la pollution plastique, la recherche scientifique, la gestion des zones côtières ont fait l'objet d'un plan d'action bienvenu. Cette année, avec la charte de Metz sur la biodiversité, adoptée en mai dernier par les ministres de l'Environnement, on a le début d'une prise en compte de ce sujet par les hauts dirigeants. On a ce week-end, si tout va bien, une session dédiée, pas forcément avec la société civile, de ce que j'ai compris, mais en tout cas un échange entre chefs d'État sur ces questions climat, biodiversité et océan. Espérons que ça puisse déboucher sur des décisions, sur des prises de conscience à la hauteur des enjeux. Parce qu'effectivement, comme l'a très bien dit Monica Verbeek juste avant, effectivement, aujourd'hui, la pression des activités humaines sur les océans est absolument terrible. Et même si les océans sont ce qu'il y a de plus vaste aujourd'hui sur la planète, plus des 2/3 des milieux marins sont directement impactés par l'activité humaine. Les océans, c'est le plus grand et le plus beau défi pour la biodiversité et pour le climat. Effectivement, ça a été là aussi rappelé, ils produisent la moitié de l'oxygène que nous utilisons, ils absorbent 93% de la chaleur excédentaire produite par l'effet de serre, ils captent 7 milliards de tonnes de CO2 par an, ce qui fait à peu près un quart du CO2 que nous émettons par les activités humaines. Lorsqu'on ajoute à cela l'augmentation de la température de l'eau, le changement de salinité, le gonflement des océans, la composition des océans qui change, tout ça donne des conséquences évidemment absolument énormes, globales. La modification des courants océaniques, la perturbation des systèmes météorologiques et avec ses conséquences très visibles, de plus en plus visibles, rappelées par les rapports du GIEC, les tempêtes plus violentes en Atlantique Nord, les typhons plus intenses dans l'océan Indien, des sécheresses plus sévères des deux côtés du Pacifique à cause du renforcement des phénomènes El Niño et La Niña. Alors on a aussi évidemment cette montée des océans qui peut atteindre 1,5 m dans les pires scénarios à la fin du siècle. On voit d'ailleurs que on est aujourd'hui peut-être sur la courbe des pires scénarios. Vous l'avez vu ces dernières semaines. Tout ça fait qu'effectivement, nous devons agir beaucoup plus rapidement, beaucoup plus fortement. Et les hommes et les femmes politiques, les responsables politiques, et notamment ceux qui sont présents au G7 ce week-end, sont ceux qui ont le plus de cartes en main pour agir. L'enjeu majeur de la pêche est évidemment celui auquel on pense en premier. 1/3 des ressources halieutiques se sont effondrées, plus de la moitié des stocks de poissons sont victimes de surpêche, ce qui veut dire que nous pêchons beaucoup plus que ce que la nature peut nous offrir. Et donc là, il va falloir qu'on ait cette, bien sûr, réflexion du côté de la pêche, mais aussi du côté de la consommation. Est-ce qu'on peut continuer avec des consommations annuelles de ressources de la mer en forte augmentation, y compris avec l'élevage? C'est des questions de consommation qu'on doit là aussi se poser. Est-ce que tout ça est soutenable, durable? Sans doute pas. Il faut aussi sûrement repenser les activités de pêche, puisque 1/3 des activités de pêche aujourd'hui sont illégales. Ça met d'ailleurs, et la pêche industrielle met en grand péril l'activité artisanale locale. C'est pourtant plus de 90% des personnes qui travaillent dans ce secteur, en particulier dans les pays en développement. Et évidemment, cette surpêche dont Madame a si bien parlé avant est bien sûr un problème environnemental, mais c'est aussi un grand enjeu géopolitique et socio-économique. Et je crois qu'effectivement, si on veut résolument lutter contre les inégalités telles que l'ambitionne le G7 de Biarritz, alors il faudra aussi beaucoup mieux réguler la pêche industrielle et ses excès. La pollution, c'est aussi plus d'1 million d'oiseaux, 100 000 mammifères marins qui meurent chaque année du fait de la pollution plastique et chimique. Cette pollution qui est multiple, qui vient des produits ménagers qu'on utilise à la maison, autant que des plateformes pétrolières, des tankers qui livrent le carburant de nos voitures. Elle vient aussi des bouteilles et autres produits en plastique unique notamment, que nous achetons, autant que des déchets chimiques de l'industrie textile ou minière. Elle vient aussi des engrais, des pesticides que notre agriculture intensive produit et utilise, autant que des rejets d'usines qui fabriquent nos téléphones. Tout ça pour dire que la responsabilité des pollutions marines, elle est partagée par tous et que chacun doit prendre sa part dans l'éradication de ces pollutions. J'ai lu aussi avec intérêt le résumé du rapport de la Banque mondiale sur la qualité des eaux qui est sorti en début de semaine. Là aussi, il y a des sujets de réflexion pour les responsables politiques qui sont majeurs, avec notamment, on voit bien les liens avec la salinisation des eaux côtières dans certains pays, etc., et des incidences majeures sur l'écosystème et aussi sur la vie de ceux qui vivent dans ces zones côtières. Alors, face à ces défis, heureusement, les solutions existent, mais elles demandent du courage politique et rien ne serait pire que de se résigner à l'inaction. Donc, il faut effectivement qu'on en fasse beaucoup plus et qu'on arrive à résilier. Nous pouvons raviver les écosystèmes marins là où notre négligence a été si destructrice. Par exemple, en régénérant des mangroves, les récifs coralliens également. Ça passe aussi par la multiplication des espèces protégées, des espaces protégés. C'est ma première. Ça se voit que c'est mon jour de reprise aujourd'hui. Je sors de vacances, donc ça passe aussi, excusez-moi, par la multiplication des espaces protégés. Et là aussi, Madame Verbeek l'a dit, il ne s'agit pas de définir uniquement des zones, il s'agit d'affecter des moyens à la hauteur des enjeux. Il faut que les organisations en charge de la surveillance des espaces protégés puissent avoir les moyens d'agir, en particulier dans les régions délaissées par les autorités locales. Alors, il y a cet objectif, effectivement, de 30% du domaine maritime sous statut d'aire marine protégée. La France a fait une annonce en ce sens il y a quelques mois. C'est bien, mais là aussi, on pourrait aller plus loin, et la France pourrait aller plus loin en instaurant de nouveaux sanctuaires marins autour de ces îles les plus riches en biodiversité, notamment dans le Pacifique. Il faut également réduire notre dépendance au plastique, aux produits chimiques, et en même temps développer cette économie circulaire, enfin moins émettrice et productrice de déchets, qui, pour une bonne partie d'entre eux, finissent en mer. Là, au niveau du G7, il y avait eu, lors l'année dernière, une charte sur la pollution du plastique qui avait été signée, dans la difficulté d'ailleurs, puisque 2 pays ne l'avaient pas signée, États-Unis et Japon. Il est urgent, là aussi, d'aller plus loin ensemble sur ce sujet, mais aussi que chaque pays montre l'exemple. On a la loi économie circulaire qui arrive en France au Parlement dès la rentrée, mais là aussi sur ces questions du plastique unique, d'une économie enfin plus circulaire. Il y a beaucoup à faire au-delà des discours pour concrétiser toutes les idées, toutes les actions qui là aussi venaient de la société civile. Enfin, il faudra réfléchir très fortement à atténuer l'impact du tourisme de masse et d'expédition qui vend à ses clients le privilège de l'air marin tout en le dégradant. Le cas de la pollution atmosphérique des paquebots géants des mers est emblématique de cet autre enjeu que nous devons travailler ensemble. Refonder le rapport aux ressources halieutiques, organisant la pêche de façon plus durable. Je vais y passer plus rapidement, ça a été très développé par l'intervenante précédente, et ça passe, et ça doit passer aussi partout dans le monde, par l'interdiction des modes de pêche les plus ravageuses, comme la pêche électrique. L'Europe a pris des décisions pour 2021 là-dedans. Il faut là aussi que l'ensemble des pays s'engagent, que les pays anticipent, pour les pays européens, la décision européenne. On avait porté cela à l'Assemblée nationale, et cet été, ça vient d'être confirmé par le gouvernement. Et puis, il faut s'attaquer aussi, là aussi, c'est une question politique, à un certain nombre de subventions aux activités de pêche qui, là aussi, bénéficient trop souvent à la pêche intensive. L'enjeu, là aussi, comme je le disais tout à l'heure, c'est préserver, soutenir les pêcheurs artisans et les communautés qu'ils nourrissent contre le pillage des ressources par les navires industriels, qu'ils soient licites ou illicites. J'aurais pu parler aussi, mais le temps presse.
Tu as anticipé.
J'ai vu que j'étais un peu long. Non, il faudra qu'on reparle aussi de l'adaptation au changement climatique pour toutes les populations qui vivent en zone côtière. Effectivement, il faut là aussi que les responsables internationaux, et c'est compliqué d'avancer sur ces sujets-là, il faut qu'on arrive à avancer sur les statuts de réfugiés climatiques, en premier pour les personnes qui vivent près des zones côtières, qui vont être les premières à devoir se déplacer, changer de mode de vie, et toutes les conséquences qui s'ensuivent. Et là aussi, il faudra évidemment qu'on puisse avoir une impulsion politique qui est si dure à déclencher aujourd'hui. Alors, vous l'aurez compris, la réponse, elle doit être collective, elle doit être multilatérale. C'est pour ça que c'est important aussi que le G7 et tous les autres sommets de ce type puissent parler et surtout agir sur ces questions-là. La réponse, elle doit être rapide. Là aussi, c'est dans les prochaines années, dans les prochains mois. Il ne faut pas qu'on puisse attendre encore trop longtemps. Et le G7 peut et doit jouer grandement sa part en initiant des solutions audacieuses, des solutions exemplaires. Et j'avais commencé là-dessus, mais je continue parce que je sais que le combat des ONG, je sais que le combat de tous ceux qui se mobilisent, il est tellement énorme que des fois, on peut avoir cette tentation de baisser les bras, mais surtout pas au moment où on va réussir, ou au moment où enfin un certain nombre de responsables politiques se rendent compte de l'inaction des dernières années et se décident enfin à faire de ces sujets-là un sujet pour demain. C'est là encore plus qu'avant qu'on a besoin des organisations et des associations. Alors, puisque tout se joue dans les prochaines années, l'avenir des océans et par là même l'avenir du vivant, je vous invite toutes et tous à prendre toute votre part dans ce beau combat. Vive la biodiversité, vive les océans.
Merci. Merci pour ce discours qui fait le tour de beaucoup de questions et qui implique aussi, je pense, le thème solidarité autour de ces questions de travailler en collectif tu parlais de négociations, mais au final, cette solidarité, elle se négocie.
But solidarity is not a negotiation. It is built with all the actors, and the ocean has the possibility of being a source of inspiration for the future. It can provide solutions through biomimicry, through new technology. So I'm going to invite Patricia Ricard to join us to moderate this first round table. Patricia Ricard is the manager of the Public Oceanographic Institute, vice president of Ocean and Climate Platform. She's so I invite you to moderate this first conference on biodiversity.
J'embrasse tous Surfrider parce que vous faites un sacré boulot, les gars. Voilà. On m'a dit de faire un petit coucou sur cette caméra aux internautes, donc bonjour les gars, accrochez-vous parce qu'on va avoir plein de solutions. Alors je voulais remercier les deux précédents intervenants, Mathieu et Monica, parce que vous avez fait un formidable travail introductif. Donc nous, on va arrêter de parler des problèmes, on va aller direct sur les solutions. Alors pour les solutions, je voudrais appeler Yves Parlier, Yves, si tu veux bien me rejoindre, Lorelai Picourt, Muriel Dubois et Guillaume Leport. Allez, venez, parce qu'on a un petit boulot. Parce que là, on va vraiment aller du côté de ceux qui ont déjà franchi le Rubicon. Allez, montez. Tiens, on va faire un demi. Ah, c'est venu avec moi. Voilà. Voilà, parce que ça y est, je crois que maintenant, on a énoncé les problèmes. On a une chance folle, on connaît les problèmes. Je vous rendez compte, le temps qu'on a gagné, maintenant, ça y est, maintenant, on n'a plus qu'à aller sur les solutions. Et justement, là, vous avez des acteurs du changement, des artisans du changement, des gens qui ont déjà un petit peu les mains dans le cambouis, un petit peu aussi le regard vers demain. Et on va essayer de voir, en partant du plus local jusqu'au plus international, voir un peu quelles sont ces solutions. Alors, tout d'abord, je vais juste vous les présenter très rapidement. Donc, Lorelai Picourt, qui est assise à côté de moi et qui est responsable internationale de la plateforme Océan et Climat, et elle s'occupe aussi de l'aspect plaidoyer. Donc elle nous donnera un petit peu la température et un peu qui fait quoi, parce qu'on n'est pas tout seul, c'est ça la bonne nouvelle, on n'est pas tout seul. Il y a plein de gens qui font des choses formidables. Yves Parlier, Yves Parlier, c'est difficile de te présenter parce que tout le monde connaît ton palmarès de voileux, de voilier, de grands coureurs au large. Mais tu as toujours gagné avec une avance sur l'innovation. Tu as navigué sur des bateaux un peu différents, et tu es aussi, on t'appelait l'extraterrestre parce que tu étais très calé sur la météo. Donc l'innovation et la météo, c'est quelque chose qui va bien, et on verra un peu plus loin avec toi pourquoi. Muriel Dubois, alors là, c'est un cœur de maman qui a fait les miracles, comme quoi les mamans, il faut s'en servir, c'est très utile les mamans, et tu nous expliqueras pourquoi aussi. Et Guillaume Leport, alors là, il va nous apprendre à changer de mentalité, parce qu'en fait, c'est une des clés du problème, c'est comment faire autrement. Voilà, donc sans plus attendre, on va donner la parole à Muriel, si tu veux bien nous raconter ton histoire.
Fonctionne celui-là ?
Oui.
Donc bonjour, je m'appelle Muriel et je suis fondatrice des laboratoires de Biarritz. Et donc, en effet, après les constats de tout à l'heure, l'action, même à un très modeste niveau local, même si, bon, aujourd'hui, on a nos produits qui dépassent les frontières, mais c'est une réponse très modeste. Mais l'objectif est en effet, comme le disait le docteur Verbeek, de diminuer cette pression de l'activité humaine. Et nous, on s'est focalisé sur les produits solaires. Donc le laboratoire, en fait, s'est créé sur 3 piliers. Un premier pilier qui était la recherche, qui était bien sûr indispensable. Donc on a la recherche en interne, aussi bien la recherche fondamentale que
basic but also basic research and on formulations. And our products are certified, and this validates the product's entire life cycle, from the raw material to marketing, including packaging and the choice of packaging. Even though we had already worked on this as part of Ocean Colin Onglet. And this also, and our third pillar is the ocean, because it's our where we get our raw ingredients from, because we use mainly a red algae, which is present on the Basque Coast. It's not rare, it's not threatened. We only use what nature offers us. That's very important. And you revalue it. It had been used a little bit in food, but not in cosmetics until now. It's a source of active ingredients and a source of inspiration, because we try to take inspiration from the properties and action of living creatures. So this is all about biomimicry, about what nature does, what nature produces. This shows what the situation is today. What we've managed to do is to extract interesting molecules from the red algae that we use in our products, antioxidants especially, because this provides protection, enables to age well, and organic. And this picture shows an additional stage which we try to reach. We're talking about biomimicry because we've identified other molecules produced by the red algae, which is microsporine, which is amino acids, MMA, except they are very difficult to extract and we find it difficult to stabilize them, but scientists have shown these MAAs in the mucus of reef fish. They absorb these algae and manage to transport in their mucus these molecules to protect them from UV light. And so we're trying to work on this. We work in collaboration with the University of Pau. It's a program led by Professor Susan Fernandez. We need to research further and further because there are lots of sun products on the market. And I'm not going to say the difference between UVB and UVA. There are two ways to protect. There's a mineral and chemical filters. Chemicals can make directly from petrochemicals. We know since 2008, so that means for the last 11 years, that these products are toxic, but 13% of the population, a large part of the population still uses these products. Many of them are endocrine perturbators. They are very, very toxic for the oceans as well, even in a small quantity, because it was shown that even in small quantities, they're present on beaches, and that's enough to disturb, for example, the turtles laying eggs. there are marine reserves in Mexico and Indonesia which forbid these products. The alternative available today is mineral screens, which these work like coffee filters. The mineral screens reflect the sun's rays. So this solution, we have chosen in our range these antioxidants with these mineral screens to perfect a range of organic sun creams which respects health and also respects the ocean. This was our objective when we founded the company, because our children are surfers and we wanted to protect their health and also where they were playing, the ocean. There are, of course, limits in these screens. Zinc oxide, we know that they're not toxic for marine life, but 5 or 6% of the population alone use these products. So if everybody decided to use mineral screens, we don't know what the concentration would be and the effects. So we perhaps need other possibilities. And another problem is titanium dioxide. It's the human health which is concerned, because we know that it can be toxical if it's inhaled in the form of nanoparticles. In cosmetics, we're not concerned about this because you don't usually breathe it in. And they're usually coated to make sure that they're not breathed in. But because of these limits, that's why we've set ourselves the challenge to find a third category of sun protection. These are very long processes, because once we've found this, we'll have to take care of regulations, which is very long, and show that there are other forms of protection in addition to those which already exist. So you want to protect both human health and the oceans at the same time. Your company, we're talking about utopia or reality. We're talking about economic reality. The ocean can be a source of inspiration and solutions. Thank you very much. We'll come back a little bit later to talk about this. A round of applause, please. There's a link. The link between you is innovation. Try to do things differently. If you went to, you put all your passion into defending the ocean. So can you tell us your adventure, please?
Effectivement, moi donc j'ai un peu une casquette d'une part de navigateur, d'ingénieur et d'inventeur. L'innovation, ça a parcouru toute ma carrière parce que j'ai été passionné par les bateaux et essayé de les faire progresser. Et puis j'ai fait plusieurs tours du monde. J'ai pris pas mal de recul un peu par rapport à notre planète. Et en 2006, j'ai choisi d'arrêter la compétition. Et j'ai réfléchi comment transformer un peu le savoir que j'avais acquis sur les connaissances des vents et son utilisation pour, quelque part, propulser les bateaux. L'ensemble des bateaux à moteur. Alors, on va pouvoir peut-être passer un petit film, et puis après, je vais reprendre la parole avec un petit PowerPoint. Et donc, ce petit film déjà pose le problème que finalement, l'impact que l'homme a à travers les navires qu'il fait parcourir les océans sur notre planète.
Alors, la question qui vient à l'esprit, ça marche vraiment?
Oui, ça marche vraiment. Donc, Beyond the Sea a été créé pour rendre donc la traction par kite universelle, incontournable et puis efficace. On a une démarche pour donc s'intéresser à tous les bateaux et de manière très pragmatique, on commence par les petits bateaux. Là, je vous ai apporté, je vais me lever, un kite qui pèse moins de 2 kg. Et avec ça, vous pouvez tracter un bateau de 10 tonnes. Aujourd'hui, un kite, c'est le moteur le plus léger et le plus efficace. Ça peut être beaucoup plus efficace que la voile classique. Ça peut tirer aujourd'hui jusqu'à 10 fois plus. Et le potentiel est encore énorme puisque au fur et à mesure qu'on augmente les performances aérodynamiques du kite, on va gagner de plus en plus. Et donc,
alors, si on voit les grands porte-containers qu'on voit sur ton film, quelle est la taille d'une aile de kite pour pour propulser un porte-container de cette taille?
Donc, on a un partenariat avec la CMA-CGM et pour l'instant, pour des porte-containers qui sont de petite taille pour eux, de 350 mètres de long, qui consomment 150 000 litres de gasoil par jour, il faut un kite de 1600 mètres carrés, c'est-à-dire 8 terrains de tennis, pour le tracter et faire gagner environ, donc, aux vitesses où ils vont actuellement, à 18 nœuds, 20% d'économie de carburant.
D'accord, donc ils peuvent réduire leur vitesse en rajoutant le kite et du coup faire moins d'émissions.
Ils réduisent en fait la manette des gaz, on va dire,
et ils augmentent la voilure.
Du coup, le kite maintient la vitesse de croisière.
C'est très répandu dans le monde pour l'instant ou c'est juste en essai dans des grandes compagnies comme CMA-CGM ou est-ce qu'il y a d'autres
Pour
acteurs
l'instant, à cette taille-là, c'est donc de la recherche. Nous, donc, on a 2 gammes de produits dans Beyond the Sea. On a ces kites-là, le Liberty Kite, qui se fixe sur un bateau et qui est entièrement autostable et qui va permettre donc de tracter des bateaux jusqu'à 15 mètres. On a en développement tout un système d'envoi, de récupération et de pilotage automatique pour des kites. Alors là, vous avez une maquette d'un kite de traction.
Juste là en bleu au-dessus, voilà. Là au plafond.
Celui-là, il fait 5 mètres carrés et il peut tirer plus de 500 kilos. Donc, ça, ce sont des kites qui sont entièrement pilotés automatiquement. Et donc, le but, c'est progressivement d'augmenter en surface de taille et de force de traction. Donc, aujourd'hui, on a quasiment au point un kite avec tout le système complet de 50 mètres carrés. On va aller jusqu'à 200 mètres carrés avec ce principe-là pour des bateaux jusqu'à 60 mètres. Et après, je vous disais, il faut monter à 400, 600, 1600 mètres carrés pour tirer des gros bateaux.
Est-ce qu'il faut des conditions météo correctes là, ou est-ce que quand ça forcit un petit peu, ça c'est toujours opérationnel?
C'est surtout notre problème quand le vent chute. Il faut au moins 15 km/h de vent. Le kite, lui, est capable de voler à 150 nœuds. Donc, la limite haute dans la tempête, ça va plutôt être les mouvements du bateau. Donc, à partir de force 7, on n'envoie plus le kite. Et il vaut mieux attendre que le vent rebaisse pour récupérer le kite.
Et il faut combien de gros bras pour envoyer un kite de 1600 mètres carrés?
Aucun, puisque le but, c'est qu'un officier à la passerelle du bateau puisse donc piloter à travers donc, une interface ordinateur les différentes phases d'envoi de récupération qui vont être entièrement automatisées. Aujourd'hui, le vol est entièrement automatisé déjà. L'envoi et la récupération, il y a des interventions manuelles qui sont en grosse partie mécanisables et automatisables.
Ton rêve dans 10 ans, c'est quoi? C'est un bateau qui ne serait propulsé que par un ou plusieurs kites?
Non, ça existe déjà. Par contre, mon rêve à 10 ans, c'est que déjà, il y ait 25% de la flotte mondiale de cargo qui soit équipée d'un système hybride de propulsion, moteur diesel et kite.
Donc on peut pousser un peu plus sur la réglementation puisque les solutions alternatives existent. Qui est pour? Non, parce on doit parler à des gens dans 3 jours, donc on va tester l'adhésion. Bon, donc les solutions existent.
Non seulement vous pouvez pousser pour la législation, mais vous, en tant que consommateur de produits, je rappelle que 90% de l'économie mondiale passe au travers donc, de la marine marchande. Vous pouvez quelque part exiger des produits qui ont été transportés par des Liberty Kite, voilà. Et donc la pression en fait sur les armateurs va devenir de plus en plus forte pour qu'ils s'équipent de moyens de propulsion écolo.
Donc c'est une solution ocean friendly comme on en a déjà parlé, mais il faut pousser. Hein. Voilà. Bon, si on était la fée Clochette, tu aurais besoin de quoi pour aller plus vite, plus loin, plus de bateaux, moins d'émissions Qu'est-ce qui manque aujourd'hui? Quelle est la limite de ton innovation?
Donc aujourd'hui, on commence à commercialiser plutôt vers la plaisance. Donc il faut aujourd'hui qu'on arrive à montrer qu'on est capable de générer du chiffre d'affaires et d'équilibrer les comptes de notre société pour pouvoir intéresser des investisseurs, pour continuer donc à financer notre recherche et augmenter en taille de bateau progressivement et en taille de kite.
Eh ben, c'est tout ce qu'on te souhaite. On peut l'applaudir quand même. Hein. Voilà.
Merci beaucoup.
Donc voilà, donc on voit que l'innovation est quand même en route et en marche et qu'en plus il y a un dialogue quand même entre les pollueurs et les innovants, donc c'est quand même une bonne idée. Moi j'aime beaucoup cette petite phrase qui dit toujours que l'âge de pierre c'est pas arrêté faute de pierre. Donc quand vous êtes un peu démoralisé, pensez qu'on a quand même la capacité d'aller chercher des solutions. Le problème c'est qu'il faut accompagner les gens parce qu'on vit dans un monde très formaté et qu'aujourd'hui quand on gère une entreprise on n'est pas forcément au cœur de l'innovation. Et ça c'est tout le boulot de Vertigo Lab et c'est le tour de Guillaume Leport.
Bonjour à tous.
Hello everybody. I'd like to go back at what was said at the beginning of the presentation by Dr. Beck and about the protected marine areas and the way to innovate and to transform the activities there. So I'd like to start with a very classical. I was going to start with a traditional photo, but I haven't got that. In terms of Vertigo Lab, we work a lot on how to finance reconstruction. We have 2 main axes because we work on both land and the ocean. We've looked at a feasibility study for biomimicry centre or unit in Biarritz. And we've also worked a lot on solutions based on nature, especially in Marseille, whether in protecting marine submersion, thanks to marine engineering. And we also work a lot with financing conservation. And over the last few years, we work with the MedFund, which is the Mediterranean network, where we worked on the budget needed. And also, last week, we worked as part of the third, we carried out a study on all the innovative financing mechanisms which exist with case studies within Fiji on biodiversity compensation, or in Mexico on conserving coral reefs and mangroves. And in all this work on biomimicry, we saw that first there's a big financial gulf between money. This is truly existent, which truly exists, and needs. So we're trying to think of new innovative mechanisms, self-financing, for example, which will enable marine areas to be more resilient. And we also, secondly, we know that there is a lot of paper parks. We know there's a lot of we have lots of objectives to achieve in terms of the area of the ocean to be preserved. And in the end, due to a lack of resources, a lack of financing, or a lack of ambition, certain management plans don't really have an impact. For example, in partially protected areas in the Mediterranean, where recreational fishing and traditional fishing are more important than in areas which are not protected at all. So we have developed a project called Lucids, which is based on the Mediterranean, and the idea is to rethink about how to innovate in financing conservation, and how to finance this in protected marine areas. We have 3 main axes in the Mediterranean. We worked with a protected marine area to make the way they think about their strategy in the long and medium term evolve. We use entrepreneurial methods in terms of developing economic models or business plans, because many managers have a scientific background. So we try to show them. Second thing, we tried to develop innovative financing mechanisms. In Morocco, we work with an association which is developing working on transforming fishermen's practices using 0% credit. With captures which are less, have a lower impact on the sea, and also valuing certain invasive species. And another project which we're trying to develop is Astovo in Croatia, which is about implementing a local incubator for projects linked to marine conservation. There were many sites where the local people were originally against these protected sites, because either they were seen as being a brake on the economic development. So the idea is to make the protected marine area at the heart of the village, and to show that it can be a way for protecting biodiversity, and also allows helps economic development. In the first example in Croatia, we showed how small businesses, which will have a positive effect on the environment and enable those involved to reappropriate the protected marine environment, and show them that the marine environment is something that they'll need for themselves and for future generations. It's both educational and shows solidarity. And the final point, which is perhaps more global, in these financing methods, we try to bring in other types of finances, for example, in terms of conservation. It's perhaps a little more complicated in marine conservation. There's a large dichotomy between return on investment in the idea is to try to bring these two worlds together, and to see what what tools everybody have for marine conservation, so we can protect ecosystems and the local populations at the same time. Yes, there's local base. It's important for local populations to reappropriate these tools. If you were at the table of G7, what would you say? What would you say? Is it a problem of willpower, a problem of money? I think the biggest break, I think I'll come back to this at the end, because you've shown, we started to work a year and a half ago. We're in an experimental phase. The first results for some sites have just come out. So the challenge is to multiply these and not just look at the Mediterranean. So Vertigola's secret, what is it? Is it because you have a big heart? We have a team which is multidisciplinary. Biologists, scientists, economists, politologists. And so the fact that we've worked for many years on these, within the Mediterranean area or internationally, we realized that these problems existed and things will happen very quickly. So we need to, we want to contribute our part. In any case, thank you. A round of applause. I'm feeling more optimistic now because we can see that there are projects in progress. Laurelie, you're going to take us on a journey throughout the world. You're going to tell us what the what POP is and something called the Alliance Initiatives. And here too, we'll see that progress is being made.
Bonjour à tous. Moi, je vais parler en anglais parce que on a beaucoup de projets internationaux. Du coup, I'm going to shake things up a bit, and also this will give a break to our translator. So you know, it's a difficult job. So first of all, the Ocean and Climate Platform. So who are we? There's quite a lot of people. A lot of you are here tonight or today. So it's about 70 members. So it's a large organization, an NGO that represents aquariums, foundations, scientific institutes, NGOs across the world. And we work in basically the idea of promoting ocean-based solutions for climate mitigation adaptation. So in that sense, we work threefold. First of all, we're a network. So the idea is to have mobilization, common activities, and so that's our main activity with all the members here on the board. Secondly, we work for a better understanding of the ocean, climate, and biodiversity nexus, which means that we need to establish a dialogue between the scientists and the policymakers. So in that sense, we work with Dr. Françoise Gail, who's sitting down there with us. And yeah, we're working with scientists to explain, for instance, the outcomes of the IPCC reports. If you're not a scientist, you can't read it. Even the summary for policymakers, 28 pages, no policymaker has time to read that. So the goal of the Ocean and Climate Platform is to try and synthesize and make it easier to understand what are those interlinkages between ocean and climate. And then lastly, we work at the international levels. So we need to bring this collaboration between NGOs. We heard it a lot today, actually. We need multilateral cooperation. We need innovation. We need success. And how do we do that? We don't have the privilege of working near the ocean. We actually work in a small office in Paris. So we protect the ocean from...
Extremely small. They're very, very brave with the budget.
But yeah, so what we try to do is to bring all these incredible solutions to an international level. So we work at the UN, especially the Climate Convention, and we try to explain to international policymakers that we have solutions. We need to move beyond political momentum. Now it's time for action, and now it's time for implementation. So in that sense, in 2017, so that's 2 years already, we launched this quite incredible project, actually, because it's called the Ocean and Climate Initiatives Alliance. It's quite long, so let's call it OCIA. We'll make it easier for everyone. And what does it do? Well, it actually brings together about 20 initiatives from all around the globe to show that there are solutions, there are ocean-based solutions. So we work on corals, we work on MPAs, on ocean acidification, on shipping, so on many, many topics. And all this together, these 20 initiatives are selected based on their scientific excellence. And then how do we bring it into policy, into decisions? We have a lot of projects, and it was really hard to choose one, but I wanted to show you some progress, some success stories. We're talking about solutions, we need a bit of optimism. So I wanted to take you for a few minutes to, well, pretty much the other end of the world, to Raja Ampat, which is in West Papua. It's about 1,500 islands in this archipelago. We most likely have divers in the room. This is pretty much your paradise. And it's actually called the species factory, because there's so much conservation, so much biodiversity, 75% of the world-known hard corals, countless manta rays, sharks, sorry, apologies, turtles, everything that you can desire is basically there. Actually, in the last couple of decades, it was damaged, mainly because of destructive fishing practices. They used to fish with dynamite fishing. But through great collaboration between governments, NGOs, scientists, and mainly the local communities, they have established this huge marine protected area, and all these bad practices have been practically eradicated. But obviously with climate change and different issues are coming up, especially due to tourism. Now we can travel halfway across the world in about 24 hours. So more tourists means that people are not necessarily aware. They know that the sea is beautiful, but they don't really know how to behave in the sea. And we need to tell tourists that, you know, it's a little bit like you go to the Louvre. You can walk around, see beautiful things, but do not touch anything. And underwater, it's pretty much the same. So, you know, the first time you step on a fire coral, you will learn your lesson. So do not do that. So basically, Yafkaru is a project that is run by an NGO called the Sea People. And their main objective is to rehabilitate 1 hectare of coral, degraded coral reef, within the first year, so now in 2020, coming up. And within the 3 to 5 years coming as well, restoring 5 to 10 hectares. So how do they do this? Well, I'm not a scientist, so I won't go through the whole process of, you know, replanting corals, but apparently it works and it's great. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, I like this initiative because it's not only science, it also works with community-based networks. So it works with the local communities. It's also a way to educate the children in the local villages. Some of them had never been diving before. They were just scuba diving. So they didn't even know what a coral was. So it's part of raising awareness on the beautiful world that we have undersea, but it's also working with the governments and showing the heads of villages and the different government officials that go through the Raja and Pat what it is that we're protecting. So that it works on community-based network and stakeholder involvement, including also large NGOs such as Conservation International, which has been in the area for quite a while. And so I told you their objective for 2020, but they actually have a pilot phase that was run between 2016 and 2018, so 2 years. And this first pilot phase was actually quite interesting because it took place in a resort. Originally, the 2 guys who started this NGO now, they were diving instructor and a yoga instructor, being like, I don't want to live in France or in Australia anymore. I want to go, you know, halfway across the world. And they realized that although these corals had been degraded by shipwrecks or nasty activities, within the first 12 months, they already had about 50% of survival rate when they replanted the corals, which is quite incredible actually. And after 30 months, 80% survival rate. In another site, they actually reached up to 88% of survival rate in replanting their corals. So that's quite extraordinary, and it's good news. So in that sense,
it works.
Yeah, it works. It works really well, and it's a really good pilot phase. And I forgot to mention, but also you guys are all doing incredible stuff, and we would be absolutely honored to represent you in the Ocean and Climate Initiatives Alliance. So that's what I meant to say. But yeah, no, what I wanted to conclude with is that we work on local. You showed me the time. I'm sorry.
My job. I should. Yeah, okay.
Local initiatives, and we try to bring it to the next level. We try to show policymakers that there is hope, and I think that's what we've been doing today with all of you. So thank you.
Thank you very much. We can applaud her, and thank you for doing it in English. That was very kind of you. Alors, maintenant, ils vont être à vous parce qu'en fait, on se rend compte que c'est possible, qu'il faut faire un peu différemment. Et puis il faut faire, vous savez, un peu comme quand on était gamin, alors on dirait que tu serais le gentil, je serais le méchant, puis tu serais blessé, puis je viendrais te sauver. Enfin voilà. En fait, se projeter avec la volonté de faire autrement, je crois que c'est peut-être ce qui qualifie et ce qui rejoint, ce qui regroupe un petit peu toutes ces actions. Donc, ils sont à vous, profitez-en. Il y a beaucoup de gens qui parlent des problèmes, ils sont beaucoup moins nombreux à parler des solutions. Allez-y, la salle. Qui veut poser la première question?
I'll start then. Maya, you said that you had problems in terms of regulations. solutions which protect both our children's health and oceans. What do we need to change? What are the breaks? We need to open up the regulations and reduce the pressure of the lobbies, the big groups who don't want these solutions because they want to sell their own products and make their own profits. So you're talking about all the standards and labels. And I'm talking in terms of regulations and politically. There are ways of protecting oneself differently. All the avenues are closed off by these big groups who want to make their own profits. They make up money off existing solutions, and for them, pollution is not their main concern. And these companies, do they not come and see you and ask you to collaborate? I think it's more profitable for them to try to make money out of their existing products. So here there's a formidable work being done on the social networks. It's easy when there are alternatives which exist. What would you say to Mr. Macron and Mr. Trump if you had a couple of seconds? Mr. Trump's not here. Yes. I would say we have a particular form of economic development and which is very polluting with large industry. And in parallel, you have policies which are trying to preserve the seas. So you have these two parallel universes which never cross each other. We need a different form of economic development which will push for preserving the oceans. Is using natural capital a good thing? I don't think it boosts it, but I think it transforms it, and potentially it could create less difference between. Could lead to less differences in terms of wealth between the rich and the poor. What do we need to do today, for example, for the G7? Because you said that you're multidisciplinary. What is your approach, and what's your wish? What's your major wish? To have more equality. We do a lot of on-the-field missions. We meet all the players present, the managers, and we see what the needs are. And at the same time, we try to show these players that sometimes the needs are not those that they are always the best for biodiversity. So we try to move forward with everybody together. We don't provide a single business plan, an economic model. We try to support them throughout the whole process in a concerted manner. Is this a method? Good afternoon, Benjamin. I know I'm director of a consultancy called Utopia and member of the board of directors of Surfrider. My question is for Yves. I'm very delighted to meet you this evening. We use your products. I've been using your products for 2 months. Eva, a question for you. Even though I don't know you, I'd like to speak to you on first name terms. You talked about these big companies becoming increasingly committed to these. How many boats? I'd like an objective. I'd like a concrete objective. The deal is that they have to make available to us a cargo ship for 2 months just for us, and then for 4 months in operation, if we go beyond if we get more than 5% savings, then they're committed to buy 80 systems. Are there any other questions from the floor?
Thomas, in the UK, can you understand? Okay. In the UK, yeah, Thomas.
No, Thomas is my boss. I'm Guillaume. It's okay.
Oh, sorry, Guillaume.
No, it's okay.
Pardon. We have a problem with marine protected areas that aren't regulated effectively to allow for sustainable alternatives. So they allow trawling, for example. So the people who want to invest in new industries rely on government effective regulation. Do you see the same problems in expanding your business ideas? Is there too little allowance to create more sustainable alternatives?
Je peux répondre en français, c'est bon?
Oui.
I can answer in French. It's okay. It's okay.
This is one of the problems that we encounter on sites where we work. We have a whole range of players involved, and governmental players are often a little bit resistant to change and resistant to what we propose. And as I said before, the idea in our project is to transform the way that the economy works locally with local players. The idea of the major industries in certain areas. This goes against a whole range of small players. And you talked about lobbies before, especially in terms of national policy. You have major industrialists who have a lot at stake, especially in certain areas. And we try to work more on a local area and go out and meet this vision. So, yeah, there are certain blockages. I'm not sure if I've answered your question there. Are there any other questions? We can see that regulations is a very important subject for everybody. We need to move the red lines. France has a legislative tool now, the law on biodiversity. In short term, after 3 years, can you already see the benefits of this? Have there been any positive effects on biodiversity, on marine species? We haven't really got many French scientists at the moment. We work a lot abroad, so what we can see in many countries is that there are places where not a lot is done, or even things are going backwards. I'm not sure if other people could add any details. There's also this national strategy for biodiversity. In France, we have French regulations, European regulations, and international conventions. There's a protected species of fish, which is often in, which today there's still no measures taken against people who are polluting against them. We're beginning to educate the judges involved in these cases, but it takes a lot of time. So laws are fine, but we have to look at how they're actually applied in practice. We have a fabulous arsenal of laws, but the problem is always the same. It's political will. As you said, we have this the development of protected areas, which respects regulations, but in terms of the long-term consequences, the impact, the true impact on biodiversity, the results are not what we expected. Just a point about the application of laws and regulations, what should be done, all these local blockages that you encounter on a daily basis. Don't hesitate to go and speak to your MPs, to your senators, because you who are on the field, you know what's going on in your business. You can also go and propose things to your parliamentarians. Here there's a clear blockage which is very easy to overcome, but you need to give us your expertise on a daily basis. This is really important because there's a reality on the field. We want to simplify things, but you are confronted with the daily reality and you're in the best position to help us change. Hashtag also explains the problem of lobbies. It's not just in. We can move the red lines in other fields as well. So there's no reason why we can't do this too. You are useful in terms of development and your products and services. So Matthew Alphalat Art, but with great pleasure. I think it's worth repeating what you said. Yes. Loli, did you want to add something? For the biodiversity plan, which came out a year ago, the ocean is very present in the different measures that France wants to undertake. And to look back in what's happening internationally, France has shown it has a very clear ambition to put biodiversity at the heart of its actions, at the heart of its ambitions. Just like climate change, and lots of efforts are being made. We agree that in practice things need to go further. But for example, I took part in the G7 environment meeting last year in Canada, and civil society. There's a whole social society was very much outside what happened. There's no interaction with the heads of state. This year in Metz, we had the Charter for Biodiversity and also events organised by civil society. The Ocean and Climate platform was present. We had a room full of people and there was a true interaction. Patricia was present and we were able to summarise all the exchanges for the minister who was present. So things are evolving, even though we all agree that perhaps not quickly enough. I'd just like to add about the platform, climate and ocean platform. There's a new state of mind now. If you look at the platform's makeup, these are people who were potentially competitors before and who are now working together to get the ocean to move up in the agenda. When we go to, when we see companies today, we say, go and speak to your competitors. It's a new way of working. I think Vertigo Lab is an example of this. That's what Surfrider Foundation proposed yesterday, and I'd like to thank them for that proposal. In cosmetics, we're trying to look together at solutions. When you do things together, it's always easier. What's the phrase? When you're on your own, you go fast. When you're accompanied, you go a long way. One more question for Vertigo Lab now. Do we learn about these things in schools today? How long will it take before this model becomes part of the curriculum? We have a partner school in Nice who we work with. They only began last year with a master's degree. We're right at the very beginning of things. But it will happen. If the incubator works, then, of course, there will be more courses. In terms of regulations, are there any? Because apart from the lack of human means and time, the major obstacle is resistance to change. Even in the local population, people who have always fished in a certain way, they're resistant to a different form of fishing or an activity which has a lower impact. Do you still meet a lot of people who still fish the way they used to? Depends what you understand by that phrase, but certain practices, yes. There are players who try to change things, but here again, it's a long-term work over several years where you need a relationship based on trust. Perhaps we can show that to our community of fishermen that somewhere else something is being done and it's possible. But I've never fished in my whole life, so if I go and see a fisherman and try to explain this to him, it's not always easy. So replicability is the key here. Very often when you go surfing or diving and meet fabulous people, what's the procedure to propose initiatives to the Alliance? We've got a website, oceanclimate.org. Send us a message. Or we go to a lot of international events, national events too. And we go to a lot of conferences, so don't hesitate to come and talk to us. There are lots of small educational videos on the platform, and I invite you to go and watch them. It's a fabulous resource. Are there any other questions?
Oui.
Allô, allô. Pardon, je me permets de relayer les questions du net.
Ah oui, super. Bonjour le net.
Voilà.
Ouais.
Il y a du monde en streaming. Donc c'est une question de item qui fait référence certainement au discours d'ouverture. La question est la suivante. Comment les océans peuvent-ils nous fournir plus de 50% de l'oxygène que nous respirons?
Allez voir le site de la plateforme, c'est expliqué en 2 langues. Non, Françoise, tu veux répondre en live? Non, voilà exactement le genre de réponse que vous avez sur le site scientifique, sur le site de la plateforme, parce que derrière la plateforme, il y a tout un comité scientifique, un pour l'Alliance et un pour la plateforme Océan et Climat, et ces questions sont non seulement adressées, mais bien animées et faciles à comprendre.
Donc pour faire peut-être vite et résumer la situation, en fait, ces 50%, c'est au cours de l'évolution. Donc c'est sur des millions d'années. C'est pas tous les jours, etc. C'est quelque chose qui s'est accumulé. Et ça donne une idée aussi de la durée de vie de l'océan par rapport à l'histoire de la Terre. Donc c'est pas hier, c'est avant-hier.
Voilà. Et ça diminue, donc si j'ai bien compris, du fait de nos activités. Donc c'est encore plus fragile. Voilà. Alors, les internautes ont-ils d'autres questions? Impeccable. Bon, eh ben, je pense qu'on va applaudir, remercier nos amis. Et puis après, moi, j'ai... Voilà.
L'océan, le terme
Non, pas trop. Voilà, moi, je voudrais juste, avant de lancer le petit film, parce que c'est ma petite contribution aux solutions positives, moi, je voudrais juste partager avec vous quelques réflexions dans les 7 minutes de conclusion qui me sont imparties. Moi, je voudrais qu'on réfléchisse beaucoup sur notre rapport à la vie dans les océans, parce que nous avons très peu d'empathie pour la vie marine, à part les baleines et les dauphins, bien sûr, les requins un peu moins. Mais alors, quand on arrive aux poissons, plus du tout. Par exemple, moi, je suis toujours surprise qu'on ait encore des épuisettes dans les magasins de jouets au bord de la plage. Imaginez qu'à la sortie de l'école, on donne à chaque enfant dans le monde une fronde ou un lance-pierre et qu'on lui dise « va tuer les petits oiseaux dans les arbres, mon chéri ». Je pense qu'on serait tous horrifiés. Donc pourquoi ne pas commencer à apprendre que tuer, c'est pas jouer ? Et déjà, on pourrait demander qu'on passe peut-être remplacer l'épuisette par une petite plaquette d'identification pour que l'enfant puisse observer les poissons et éventuellement mettre un nom dessus. Et puis voilà. Donc on a un très très long travail à faire. Chacun et tous ensemble sur cette empathie pour cette vie de l'océan qui nous veut tant de bien. Je crois aussi qu'il faut revenir à la considération de ce qu'est le vivant tout court, hein, parce qu'on est très bon en économie, en finance, mais on est un petit peu moins bon en biologie et en chimie. Mathématiques et physique, c'est bon, hein, on fait des drones, des voitures qui conduisent toutes seules, voilà, on va sur Mars, enfin voilà, tout ce qui est technique, c'est impeccable. Voilà, tout ce qui est vivant, on n'est pas complètement au point. Donc pour remettre un peu de vivant dans tout ça, hein, réconcilier la technosphère et la biosphère, c'est un petit peu la mission. Donc en technosphère, on est équipé, en biosphère, on est on a un peu moins de spécialistes. Donc peut-être voilà, faire ces fameuses équipes pluridisciplinaires et puis remettre le vivant au cœur de l'enseignement des enfants. Commencer par les règles de la maison pour après parler de l'histoire des hommes, ça serait peut-être une idée. Et puis le dernier appel solennel que j'aime bien dire, c'est le mécénat, c'est la philanthropie. Tout le monde trouve normal de réparer une très belle cathédrale ou un monument ancien. Tout le monde trouve normal de donner de l'espace à un chercheur pour faire un beau tableau ou une œuvre d'art ou un happening. Voilà. Mais je crois qu'aujourd'hui, il faut que notre philanthropie, privée ou publique, aille, petite et grande, aille vers la créativité des chercheurs. On a besoin d'avoir des chercheurs qui se posent des questions et si jamais on faisait comme ça, on a besoin de chercheurs qui ont du temps. Ça serait bien de leur donner 100% de leur temps de cerveau disponible à la recherche et non pas à la recherche de budget. Et puis aujourd'hui, on trouve normal d'exposer le travail des artistes. Je pense qu'il serait bien aussi qu'on partage les résultats et les travaux et les réflexions des scientifiques. Voilà. Donc essayons d'avoir à peu près la même gourmandise par rapport à notre patrimoine culturel et à notre patrimoine naturel. Et déjà, c'est un grand pas en avant. Et puis surtout, supprimons les épuisettes. Voilà. Alors moi, je vais vous montrer un petit film. Et ça, c'est des scientifiques et puis un collectif de gens de différentes compétences qui ont joué à... Et si on faisait la bouillabaisse 4.0, c'est-à-dire sans plastique, sans carbone, sans kilomètres et sans déchets. Et voilà, et ça, c'est quelque chose qui avance. Voilà. Donc je partage ça avec vous, ça s'appelle 13 océans.
Le thermostat de la planète et le garde-manger de plus de 3 milliards d'humains. 3 phénomènes se conjuguent pour le mettre gravement en danger. Le réchauffement climatique, la surexploitation et la pollution. L'effet de serre le réchauffe, les émissions de CO2 acidifient l'eau et menacent le développement des organismes vivants. Les pollutions plastiques et les pollutions chimiques mettent la vie des océans en danger. Les habitats côtiers des poissons disparaissent et les farines de poissons déciment les stocks. Enfin, la consommation de poissons carnivores en constante augmentation conduit à la disparition d'espèces, ce qui casse les chaînes alimentaires. Dans la perspective proche, où nous serons bientôt 9 milliards de personnes, nous devons agir maintenant, car l'océan sera soit l'accélérateur des dérèglements de nos sociétés, soit le socle de notre résilience. Il est temps de se remettre à tourner un peu plus rond. Ça tombe bien, aujourd'hui l'économie devient circulaire. Alors, tournons vraiment rond et produisons notre alimentation sans détruire nos ressources et nos écosystèmes, sans vider les océans, sans faire le tour du monde dans des congélateurs, sans faire de carbone et sans émettre de déchets plastiques. La résilience, nous l'atteindrons par notre capacité à recréer des chaînes alimentaires vertueuses et durables, adaptées aux besoins de l'humanité. Cultivons notre alimentation en ville et valorisons nos déchets et nos rejets. Au départ, Il y a l'énergie du soleil qui fait pousser les plantes, puis les animaux qui mangent les plantes, puis les animaux qui mangent ceux qui ont mangé les plantes, puis nous les hommes qui mangeons un peu tout le monde. Donc, imitons le vivant et trouvons vite des solutions positives pour réconcilier l'économie et la nature et avancer vers les transitions énergétiques et écologiques. Dans une ville, on fait une ferme solaire permaculturelle pleine de fruits et légumes différents qui poussent au même endroit. Cela prend moins de place. Et puis, les plantes stockent le carbone. Avec les déchets de la ferme, on élève des insectes, des vers, des petits papillons. Les insectes sont nos alliés. Avec eux, on met en valeur nos matières organiques, on réduit le gaspillage alimentaire, on diminue l'empreinte environnementale. En plus, ils font moins de gaz à effet de serre. Avec les aliments à base d'insectes, on commence l'élevage de poissons. Plusieurs espèces à la fois. Cela s'appelle l'aquaculture multitrophique. Il faut plusieurs étages ou bassins trophiques. Des poissons pour le déjeuner, des oursins pour les restos, des vers pour la pharmacie et des coquillages qui vont nettoyer les bassins, et puis des algues pour la cosmétique qui vont aussi nettoyer l'eau, chacun mangeant les rejets des autres. Plus ils seront nombreux, mieux ils seront nourris. Si nous mangeons sainement, nous pouvons aussi mettre nos déchets dans la boucle. Surtout, ne pas faire trop grand. Stockons les carbones, pas les poissons. Mais faire tout près, évitons les voitures. Des petites fermes au milieu des hommes, sans carbone, sans frigo, sans kilomètres, sans plastique, avec des produits sains et frais pour tout le monde, et tout ça à l'abri du climat et pour mieux réparer la nature. Voilà, c'est simple, il suffisait d'y penser. On peut remplacer la chaîne du froid par la chaîne du vivant et revenir dans la grande ronde du vivant. Les cercles vertueux, c'est pratique pour mieux tourner rond.
Voilà. C'était une petite transition. C'était une petite transition, puisque je crois que maintenant on va parler de nourriture et d'océan et de biodiversité. Je vois Gilles Boeuf qui est là-bas. Bonjour Gilles, viens, on te laisse la place. Merci encore à vous tous et merci à nos intervenants.
Ça marche. Voilà. Si vous pouvez reprendre place, on va démarrer l'ultime.
Could you come back to your seats, please, for the final session before the conclusion? Just 1 minute left for you to sit down.
Il reste des places. OK. On va faire des mélanges d'anglais et de français.
We're going to have a mixture of French and English this afternoon. This session is about food, seafood, ocean food. What can we get from the sea? And we have 4 speakers. Chad Nelson, he is the Director General of Surfrider USA. Philippe Barr, who is an old friend from Darwin. And we're going to we'll be working in Bordeaux in a couple of weeks together. He will tell you about Darwin. Alexis Vaillant, who I met a few minutes ago, who will tell you about Alta Food. And Pierre-Philippe, who I met a few minutes ago, and is from the Côte du Bézet. Every time I drive from Toulouse to Bordeaux, I drive past it. I spent several years in Chile, and I had a friend who loved Bézet wine, and I used to take it back to him there. A few words about this ocean-friendly gastronomy session. What do we eat that comes from the sea? The ocean is 200 million tons of living resources. Once I was in a conference in Paris with people who refused to use the word resource. We talk about living resources. It's a way of talking about living creatures in the sea. We saw before about bioasperance. The ocean in the singular, not the plural. There's just one ocean, the same everywhere. If we had lots, we wouldn't matter what we put into it. What we put in Caledonia, in Ecuador, we have the same ocean with local variations, but the same ocean, which is more stable than any other continental environment, whether it be a lake, a river, or the one ocean, which we know, like Francis has done excellent work on this, on the ocean climate. It is the regulator of the climate. My friend Matthew gave some figures before about what the ocean is today. The ocean is strange because it's the only living environment we cannot destroy. You can destroy a forest, you can destroy a marsh, you can destroy anything except the ocean. You can destroy the coastline, and we are doing so. But the difference in the living and the ocean, there are 3 approaches. The fisheries. I'm very close to Daniel Paoli, who is very specialized in fisheries. He's in Canada, but he's of French origin, and we work together on a scientific coral council with a park which is twice the size of France. And Pauline always says that this overfishing is becoming generalized everywhere. 33%, a third of resources are overfished. for fish farming, we cultivate, we grow in these in value and in mass. There is more fish farm products than fish products. And for cosmetic products, molecules, for example, I'd like to finish by saying, when we talk about I am, we are what we eat. Look at yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror, and what you see is what you eat. And over the last 10 years, the drama we've been going through is low-cost food. It's the most stupid thing humans have ever done. Look at everybody. In the US, for example, what do people eat? Low cost. We talk about organic food, but of course, for example, crisps are 7 times more expensive than pasta. Poor people can't afford organic food. It's also a question of respect, of education. And one slogan I like a lot is, we have to keep the ocean in good health with us, so we can use it for living resources. But we need to eat. There's a terrible conclusion. If you eat fish whose stock is not too badly managed, but when you eat tuna, then you have mercury, and the higher up the chain you go, the more there is. A fish is supposed to do you good. So we are what we eat. We need to change our food. This was the Ministry of Agriculture reminded us of this. So let's begin with Chad, who has come from California and who is the Director General of Surfrider USA.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and I want to thank Surfrider Europe for inviting us to come. We have Japan Surfrider here as well, so thank you guys. I think Jill is right. At a very simple level, we are taking too much out of the ocean and putting too much in. And what we're taking out is the marine life, the seafood, and what we're putting in is plastic. And there's a study that estimates that those lines are going to intersect in 2050, and we're going to have more plastic particles in the ocean than individual fish. So it's pretty horrifying to think that the ocean will contain more plastic than fish, and we can't eat the plastic, although we may be doing that with microplastic today. So I'm going to talk about a program that we call Ocean-Friendly Restaurants, and it's really an intersection between the marine biodiversity and this issue of plastics, which is another major topic of this conference because it's having such a huge impact on our oceans. So before I explain the program, I'm going to ask them to play a short video.
It's estimated that over 5 trillion pieces of plastic are floating in the ocean, littering our beaches, killing wildlife, and ending up in our food chain. The Surfrider Foundation's Ocean-Friendly Restaurants program is tackling these issues head-on by encouraging restaurants to make simple changes that collectively make a huge impact.
Yeah, I'm Jack Johnson, and I support Surfrider Foundation's Ocean-Friendly Restaurants program. It's a great way to learn about restaurants that are eliminating single-use plastic from their practices and supporting sustainable seafood.
So what makes a restaurant ocean-friendly? Reusable tableware when dining in. Proper recycling practices are followed. No straw unless you ask for it. No styrofoam at all. And no plastic bags for to-go orders. Surfrider's Ocean-Friendly Restaurants program is encouraging restaurants to move to more environmentally friendly practices. To find an ocean-friendly restaurant in your local community and to learn more, visit surfrider.org.
So at the Surfrider Foundation, we've been trying to tackle the plastic pollution problem in 4 ways.
Hey, this is Chad Nelson, the CEO of the Surfrider Foundation.
It works. Yeah, my twin is out there in the sky. We've been doing beach cleanups for 35 years, but we can't beach clean up our way out of this problem. We did the math, and all of the 35 years of beach cleanups at Surfrider Foundation, I think we've picked up 60 million pounds of trash. That's equal to about 8 hours of the global plastic pollution entering the oceans. So, we can't compete that way. We're also educating people to change their behavior so that they can, eliminate single-use plastics from their lifestyle. And we've been passing a lot of laws and policies banning commonly found single-use items like bags or foam or smoking on the beach, these different single-use items. And that's been great, but we also wanted to find a way to work with business to have a sort of proactive means for businesses to engage in the program. So we started with restaurants because restaurants can produce an incredible amount of waste. If you think about every single meal, if it comes with a foam plate and plastic utensils and a straw, and every time they bring you a new water, there's a new straw in it. So the goal here was to find a way to work with the restaurant industry to start reducing plastics and do other sustainable things too. So today, and the program's been around for about 4 years, and we have about 500 restaurants that have joined the program. And our goal is to serve 200,000 single-use meals a day for every day of the year. And the program's been growing incredibly quickly, and the restaurants really like it. So, like I said, the carrot versus the stick. So we want to have some positive incentives to work with businesses and celebrate their success instead of working on just banning things and shutting things down and prohibiting them. And the other benefit of it is when the restaurants join the program and start becoming plastic free, when we go into their community to regulate plastics, instead of having the businesses fighting us, they come join us and support the causes, which has a very powerful political dynamic. The program has 5 mandatory criteria. So these are those commonly used plastic items that they need to eliminate. So they need to get rid of polystyrene, foam. They need to have proper recycling practices. They have to use only reusable tableware at the restaurant. No plastic bags for takeout, and straws upon request. And if they are going to use a straw, it should be an alternative to plastic. So paper, bamboo, or some other product like that. And then they have some other criteria that they can pick from, and they just have to pick 2 of these. So although this has been updated, so we now say no plastic bottles, so that's been an update. But the other things are we want to promote sustainable seafood, so every restaurant needs to be using sustainable seafood, which I'm sure what some of the other panelists will also talk about. Have vegetarian and vegan options, because we know that eating meat is having a huge impact on climate around the globe. Water conservation and energy efficiency. So the idea is that no plastics and then another series of sustainable activities. If the restaurants meet all 10 criteria, we call them platinum. And more restaurants are just doing it all once they see the list. And once the restaurants are certified, they can put the sticker in the window. We have an app so you can find the ocean-friendly restaurants by your location, so they get on the app, so it drives business to the restaurants. We list them on our website, and also our chapters start hosting events and partnerships with them. So they'll do afternoon parties, bring a crowd to their restaurant. So very quickly, the restaurants realize that their business is improving, and we're driving customers to their restaurant for doing these things. And so far, it's been incredibly positive. So there's other incentives and benefits to the program that the restaurants get. They give a $150 a yearly fee, which is tax deductible, and we promote them on our social media. So that is the program. We would love to see it expand to other parts of the world. And we've started now at 500 restaurants. It's very small, but we hope it's going to grow and it's scalable. It could be thousands or tens of thousands. So that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Chad. Thanks a lot, Chad. Tout à l'heure, on disait effectivement que l'océan ne peut pas être...
Earlier, we said that we cannot destroy the ocean, but we pollute it, we overexploit it, we overfish, we disseminate everything. It's It's really a threatened environment, a giant tanker that releases billions of organisms that can be viruses, bacteria, or others, and the climate is changing. So all this must be considered if tomorrow we want to change our relationship to the ocean. Now I'm going to give the floor to Philip, who's going to talk to you about a project which is extremely original, Darwin. It can only, it's a great name for evolution. Darwin at the time was not communicated. It was used by the researchers at the museum at the Jardin des Plantes were not very enthusiastic about it. Darwin is a great man. You have the floor. I will not talk about the life and works of Charles Darwin. To make a link with our topic today, there is something I was very interested in Charles Darwin's work when he observed, for many years, when he observed the species he studied all around the planet, when he traveled, when he sailed on the Beagle, and for many decades, he concluded that the human species, like the big monkeys he observed, not only the monkeys but others, were not that we had a metabolism that was a lot more adapted to a more vegetarian diet than the human species had adopted before. Since then, many researchers addressed that issue, and they proved that our metabolism, our teeth, our digestive system was obviously not well adapted to eat a lot of meat. And very certainly many modern diseases are also more devastating today because of our meat diet. So in Charles Darwin, I was interested in Darwin's intuition when he said that we had to go back to a more vegetarian diet. It doesn't mean vegan, vegetarian. He was not into that, but he was, towards the end of his life, he was eating a vegetarian diet. And we know today the global pressure we have on the planet is mainly due to our diet. We talk about people who are committed. When I met Paul Watson a few years ago, I was convinced that we had to radically change our diets. We have to stop saying that humanity has 7 billion people. No, it's more than 60 billion individuals. I was surprised by this figure. He said, yes, because we have to take into account the human beings, but also all the animals we breed. You have also fish you breed. They have an impact, a huge impact on the planet. When we hear more than 60 billion individuals, when we know that today 70% of the cultivated land areas in the world are used to feed animals who are going to be fed to us when we don't need that much meat. So this doesn't make any sense. when we started working on our Darwin project, it was a project at the time. It's a hybrid adventure in a former military barracks in Bordeaux to have co-working, a space like this one here that we call the tiers-lieu now. We thought it was obvious that we needed a place, a cafeteria to eat, and very quickly we realized that the issue of food in our modern societies, it's beyond just feeding. It's a way. It's an art. It's a way of living. Gastronomy is very important, especially in our areas. It's a culture. So this this can lead to huge unbalances, but also it can be a change driver, because we realize that if we only see catastrophes, if we want to be too objective, it's going to be hard to find hope to change things. We're going to give up. But if we find positive aspects, we can decide to fight. And at Darwin, we think that gastronomy, not only gastronomy, but can participate, can contribute to make us change the way we live through pleasure. It's a real pleasure to eat well and to be more responsible in the act of eating. And this can really change things much faster than other gestures that can be useful, because it's going to result in an emotion, and we need emotions to act today. At Darwin, we have the general store, which is our canteen, our cafeteria, and Surfrider Europe has an office at Darwin's, and they eat in our general store on a regular basis. It's a restaurant where we made the effort to be 100% organic. On all the we're vegetarians, and on the seafood products we are sustainable. We focus on we cook seaweed, but also we set the priority in the Garonne River. What should we fish? What should we catch first? We should catch silures, which you cannot fish. I speak too much. Just a few figures. The consumption of seafood is poor countries eat a lot of fish, rich countries too, from 100 kilos in Iceland per person per year, Japan 90 kilos, in France about 30 kilos, 37 in Spain, in Portugal even more than Spain. So it's really, it really depends. Now I'm going to give the floor to Alexis Vaillant, who is going to talk to us about ultra food.
Alors moi, je suis très touché d'être invité ici pour une simple et bonne raison, c'est que je suis avant tout un entrepreneur. Et les actions de la Surfrider Foundation.
The actions of Surfrider Foundation have contributed to 1% for the planet, and this shows that being an entrepreneur and activist don't go against each other. What I particularly like at Surfrider Foundation is that it's a movement which contributes to everybody taking part in making the population aware about consuming differently through the oceans. And I've heard a lot of things today, very technical things. I'm not a technician, I've heard scientific things as well. But when I arrived here in Saint-Jean-de-Luz, I had a thought. In the ocean, there's something very psychological, because when something affects the ocean, you're affecting the French people's holidays, everybody's pleasure. And so by working with the ocean and on food as well, because that's my job, psychologically affects people and could change people's mentality, which it takes a long time. It needs help from everybody, but it needs to affect people on a daily basis. When I say that, I mean at Alta Food, our wish is to create positive ecosystems through major consumption products. For example, we have a soup brand. When we talk about a positive ecosystem through soup, the idea is very simple. We begin with paying the players and the farmers correctly for the work they do. Everybody who contributes to the chain must be paid correctly the right sum of money. When I talked about the impoverishment of products, consumers are prepared to pay the price when it's a good product. And so that's what we try to do. Then we start with the farmer and the land. The land must be rich. The land must be French. The land must be respectful. It must be partly organic, not only, but it must be. It's not the solution to everything. We do both organic and non-organic, but it's a solution. And then what do we do with the vegetables? We will transform them. The aim in transformation is to transform them as locally as possible. At Alta Food in Marcel Bio, we grow our vegetables in Provence, in Molégès, which is about 900 meters from our transformation unit, which is called the Conserverie de Provence, which is located in Saint-Viol. We transport them to Saint-Viol. We put no artificial additives. I'm sorry to say this, but we use no sea or meat products. And when we continue the life cycle of the product, we try, as far as possible, to market in the surrounding area. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm not a saint. The aim is to respect the cycle as much as possible and to have as little impact as possible. I heard before people saying 90% of world business goes through the sea. But if we consume local products, France is the land of gastronomy. If we consume local products, we don't need to use the sea, we can use the land. And almost all our land in France is very rich and very diverse. And having said that, and all of this is very good, but if we put the weak point is if we use packaging, if packaging cannot be removed, then at some point it becomes a problem in terms of recycling or in its second life. And here again, and I heard before people talking about sea transport, about sea pollution. I'm trying to preach to the convinced already here. We are convinced that 85% of sea, perhaps my figure's not very precise, most of the waste comes from the land. So if we eliminate, the problem is not in the sea, it's on the land. And for me, and this is my conviction, the problem in France is a problem of making people aware. Because I'm originally from Savoy. The only big place I could go shopping was Geneva. And my mother used to say, don't throw litter in the street because you get fined by the Swiss authorities. Would you hear that in France? I'll go further. Look at the way we look at waste. Always people say there's different coloured waste bins, but in many regions of France, once people have sorted their waste, the authorities then go and mix the waste together again. I'm not a politician. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a citizen and an active entrepreneur. I think that the problem starts with a lack of awareness on the for the population, who need to act and put pressure on the administration, and it's through actions like Surfrider and regarding the ocean that we can achieve these results. Thank you, Alexis. When you talked before about a collapse, I think the hardest thing is the collapse of everything that's wild, and the explosion of everything that's domestic. The living biomass today is chickens, poultry. So this goes back to what we were saying before. Let's change now and look at vines and vineyards with Pierre-Philippe, who is from Vigneron de Buzet.
Thank you. Now we call it Buzet. I was wondering what I could contribute to this roundtable. When I saw the logo in the back on the T-shirt, the ocean starts at the end of our fields, and this is extremely sensitive for us. I manage a cooperative. We're located between Bordeaux and Toulouse. We manage 2,000 hectares. It's a group of men, very heterogeneous in their financial resources or cultural, intellectual resources. And we had most of them do all crops. They do multi-crops farms. When you start talking with these people, they're all over 50. They have 30 years professional experience. Their fathers, grandfathers, they've practiced conventional agric farming, and now together you have to make them change towards another approach, which is what I agree with you. Maybe we can discuss that. I think it's insufficient to have organic farming as an alternative. I talk about the living farming. We try to find solutions. As farmers, we are stigmatized as major polluters or major contributors to pollution, which impacts the oceans, but also the air, all the sensitive resources. So we have set up, and I'm going to talk to you as a practitioner. We have implemented several practices based on agroecology, that is, the use of vegetal cover, the reintroduction of other cultures, other crops. We plant in the interspaces between the vines. We plant plants. We don't have any more chemical fertilizers for the past 10 years. No more carcinogenic or reprotoxic substances. We had to do this stage by stage, like Folpel, phthalate. Maybe you've heard of that in the baby bottles, but they result in congenital disturbances. Several practices we have introduced that we're not organic, but we go even beyond that. Our concern is really the life of the soil. One of the consequences of organic treatment, it's the concentration of copper in the soil. So copper, as you know, is extremely dangerous for the fish resources. This is another issue we'll have to face. We are also working on the worst scenario. The challenge of agriculture for tomorrow is the climate change. We know what it means for us winemakers. when I was a student, when we were working, my first internship, I was in Saint-Emilion, I was 20. We were in early October. Now,
mon sud-ouest natal.
After many years in Buzet, which is not far from Saint-Emilion, now I'm going to start. I'm going to start grape picking next week. So it's 1 month. So it's 1 month earlier. So now the sensitive resources such as water in our region, we have two. We have the Pyrenees and the Central Mountains.
A déjà un déficit.
So there is a deficit of 240 million cubic meters of water. That doesn't mean much to you. So in 2030, the deficit will be 1.3 billion cubic meters of water. So this is the current consumption of the region. So the anticipated deficit will be equivalent to our resource. So in my company, with about 100 employees, I really have an impact. Socially, if I disappear, there will be an impact. So what about the water resources, not only for quality impact, and I'm not a food crop, so there is no reason why the vineyards would be irrigated. So there is another solution. That's the second part of agroecology. We're working on agroforestry. It's an original collaboration between the roots of the trees, who are going to go deeper looking for nutriments and waters, and they bring it back up through bacteria and fungus, but the biologists will tell you more about it. And they go back to the surface of the vineyards, and this way you can keep a water resource for our vineyards. So we have to work on the collaboration between the tree and the vines, which had disappeared. This is the two main points. There is a third one, which is working the soils in organic farming. There is no solution. If you have a mushroom, it means mildew at the same time. So that means the end of grapes. So if you have pesticides, it's not recommended, but we can use them in doses, or you can use copper. And copper, if you use it massively, it's a concern. And so it means more and more tractor. So you pack the soil more. And we talk a lot about the bees. As a child, I admired the bee. In my crop, I don't have flowers. I don't need to be pollination, but we do protect, and I do protect bees, and we don't use neonicotinoids, and the worms don't like to be packed on a regular basis. So now we want to go from a conventional farming to so we want to become, when we have the result of the major regional product funded by the Caisse des Dépôts, and our vineyard of Buzet should be appointed a living lab. Thank you, Pierre. You can think about what you heard. The key words key thoughts were exposed. You talked about biomimicry, bioinspiration, agroecology. We didn't say that in northern France you killed half of the soils with the pesticides, herbicides, then no more worms, so they didn't get used to it. So we have to correct that. So for these organizers, but there is no woman here. So a roundtable without a woman today is unthinkable. So for next time, please bring a lady.
I'm here substituting for Angela Howe. Say hi, welcome from the U.S. She just got in, so she was supposed to be on this panel. So we tried. She can come take my place.
Thanks a lot.
We're going to start the discussion with you. Ocean, close to the ocean, not ocean related. There will not be any sustainable future without ecological principles. Robert Barbeau used to say, there will be no sustainable farming without ecological principles. There will be no sustainable health without ecology. And we have 300 new diseases in France since 1940. We talked about the collapse of the species. The domestic species are disappearing. Common sense, it's all a matter of common sense. We have to change, but how do we do it? You have the floor.
Small, very pragmatic question. When you want to transport soup even a short distance, what type of packaging could you imagine? We use mainly glass. In its name, Conserverie de Provence, we only use green packaging. I don't do it for all the brands. We have to use Tetra Pak cardboard, which is not a solution. It could be a solution, but it's not at the moment, or at least completely. I think that we really looked at at health through eating well. And this is a subject which we're looking at in all aspects, because you will say, and with reason, I can make soup myself. But I'm not just talking to you. I'm talking about 65 million French people. And whatever I do, I don't have a solution for packaging, because bioplastic is not a solution. PLA doesn't have in Austria they can treat this process. We can't in France. So at some point, I think returnable bottles could be a solution. And that poses the problem of organization logistics. And perhaps the standardization of packaging we use too many different types of packaging, and that could be problematic for returnable bottles or jars.
Initiatives. My question would be, how would you bring your project or your initiative to scale, like a global scale, or how can we treat this in the G7?
I'm going to answer in French, so that way I don't have to look ridiculous in front of everybody. The question of scalability, deploying a model, I think it's a bit of a trick question, because I was confronted with our experiments in Darwin. We've been experimenting for 10 years. We have a system, a capitalist, ultra-liberal system, which has always led us to try to think about this notion of scalability. which is like the alpha and omega of everything. It's behind the success story of entrepreneurs. And I think that means we're running behind a myth, because that's the world we live in today. It's a globalized world. It's a world of brands, of international brands, and which has eradicated diversity, which exists in nature. And this diversity, which in each ecosystem, in each biotope, is different because it adapts to context. And the risk with the model that is being deployed is annihilating this diversity. So I think that it's essential for us to know how to develop our specificities, and our strength and energy, it lies behind adapting to local contexts. And I think we need less exchanges of materials internationally, but we need you talked before about returning to local things in terms of food, and that's what we do. And I think this is fine, but we shouldn't be careful that this doesn't lead to inward-looking nationalism. We need to continue cultural exchanges, and we shouldn't want to impose on others our own model because it depends on a specific context. That's what we think. We've often been asked to create Darwin in different places, in Toulouse and Mulhouse and different places. We're in Arcachon next to Bordeaux because that's where I'm originally from. But we will stop there because we don't think that we all have our own local context which we need to adapt to. I'm not sure if we're right, but that's my answer to your question. The current financial system is always pushing entrepreneurs to scale up their models to be efficient. I'd like to just add some nuances there. I think it is useful, especially when we want agricultural methods to evolve. Other things are possible on a sufficient scale. When I say we deploy these practices over 2,000 hectares, that means that others can see it's possible. When we show the example of permaculture or wine growing over 1 hectare, a lot of farmers would just leave and they will refuse to. They will even go as far as saying, if that's what it is, then I'm not interested. And that poses other problems, other challenges. And so it's all, this question of debate is very delicate because we always need to go into the nuances. When we talk about economic models, I would say that for farming practices, there are things that we need to that need to evolve. I agree with you. And in terms of scalability, I want to be very clear. We need to share experiences. When I said we shouldn't stop cultural exchanges, especially on exchanging good practices, this is essential, it's useful, but we shouldn't think that we're going to find the miracle response somewhere else. I'd like to add, I also believe in this type of initiative, that this type of initiative shouldn't stay small initiatives. When they talk about growing 2,000 hectares, it's important to show everyone, Here again, I'm not an expert in permaculture, but I'm convinced that with permaculture we could feed the planet. And in the same way, if we look at the same problem of pulses, we only use non-calibrated pulses, which are not sellable in hypermarket distribution. I know that's not what we're talking about today, but when you think about how much food is wasted in France, and 25% of what's produced is never eaten. So in terms of calibration, for example, I think we have a huge room for maneuver to scale all of this. Again, I'm an entrepreneur. I believe in scalability. I think it can be done. I think it means a multiplicity of local systems, not Darwin, Toulouse, Darwin, Mulhouse, perhaps something a little bit different, a local version of it. And inversely, there are national brands which need to do their job as well. It's not everybody should do it, not just our little brand. Everybody must do this. And if they're not capable of using resources correctly, then we should say, if they come and deteriorate something, they should compensate. And so companies have to find a counterbalance their carbon footprint and also their actions. When there's a negative action, there must also be a positive action to balance things. It's a very Christian value, but I think that's what we need to do. We won't change the world without businesses. In the United States and in the only aim of a company is not simply to make money anymore. It's much more stimulating than just earning money. When our food is cannot be calibrated very often, it's actually better. Your turn, Françoise. I had two questions for you concerning climate change. You mentioned the fact that you had the feeling that there's a change of date in wine harvesting. Does this have any negative consequences for you? Yes. Let me say what's happening. 30 years ago, that grape harvest was in the beginning of October, and then on average in the Bordeaux area, we added the equivalent of 2 degrees of alcohol, 2% of alcohol. Today, we harvest 3 weeks earlier, and we have grapes which have 14, 15 degrees. So we have to imagine we need to harvest less mature grapes so that we have an acceptable alcohol level for the market. Because this is what the consumers are asking for us for. So there's this whole problem of alcohol, which also plays a role in our reflection. And my second question concerning trees. What you talk about? This existed in the past. What type of trees do you plant? We have polyculture, so it's very atomized. We're a lot of forest. We've introduced a lot of hedges, over 17 hectares. We've introduced something which we had never done before. We've installed what we call trogne in French. We've installed trees in the line of vines. And this enables us to mechanically pass. We've got different varieties which are used. They have a good system of roots, and which will get the nutrients from the rocky subsoil and the little water that's remaining. and this brings it back up to the surface for the vines, which is more superficial. The French Forestry Commission works a lot on this issue.
About your initiative about restaurants. So I have a question. It's also about globalization of this initiative. And it could also involve our friends from Japan, but I have no idea whether they're in the room. I'm personally a vegetarian. I've been a vegetarian for 3 years now. It hasn't been hard for me to become a vegetarian because I haven't like eaten a lot of meat during my life. But I respect meat eaters, and I know that especially in the País Vasco, it can be really hard to like stop eating meat for a lot of people. And so I also have a question, like if you want to globalize this initiative, which I think would be a great opportunity for everybody in Europe or in Japan or all around the world, how would it be like? Could we expect like equal endeavors and efforts from each country? Like for instance, in Japan or in other countries, they eat a lot of fish or seafood. How can we expect from people who have been like used to eating like big amounts of seafood or fish to like try to be vegan or vegetarian? And to change their living habits, and as you said, like it's even more important because now gastronomy is also something that it's inside the culture. So how could we like turn this initiative into very, very homogeneous, like not something like, because it could be unequal, and we don't want inequalities to happen from this initiative. So what would be your answer?
So I think when we designed the program, the goal was to find the balance between being restrictive enough that we feel like it's meaningful change that's going to actually impact the issues that we care about, particularly the plastics, but also not so prohibitive that the bar is so high that nobody can join. So for example, in the beginning we said straws upon request. So they could still serve plastic straws, but you had to ask. And we did that because we were afraid the restaurants, if we said no plastic straws, they just wouldn't join. But it's currently evolved now to saying straws on request, but alternatives. So part of it's that evolution, but it's finding that sweet spot. I think, and it's also like LEED certification is a certification for energy efficiency in buildings in the United States. I don't know if it's global, but there's a whole set of criteria, and you just have to match some of them, not all of them. So I think we could build a program very easily that has enough flexibility to allow the cultural differences, which I think are really important. So something that makes sense in the US may not make sense in Japan, but we could create a system where they have to check off certain boxes. So I think that's very, very doable. And also for the program, it only requires that they provide vegan and vegetarian options, not that they are vegan or vegetarian. So the goal there is just to make sure that that alternative is provided so that if people like you go to these restaurants, there's something there for you. Because we want to also send the message that, you know, that the meat, as you heard, does have a huge climate impact. And so it's a way of just shifting that conversation a little bit.
I don't know if you can ask our Japanese friends to answer. I don't know if they are there. Maybe they can like tell us how they would implement this kind of opportunities in their own country.
So I'm from Surfrider in Japan. My name is Chie. We do have the whole team here, but I'm just representing the team. As we have spoken with Chad, we are trying to implement this, ocean-friendly restaurant as well. I think part of the goal, again, is the sustainability of the food is what we need to be thinking about, and also the plastic and the damage it can do to the environment. So it's also, I think, going further down, it's the plastic, it's providing of that, these infrastructure, if you will, in terms of the providing of the restaurant is important. But going further, I see that we're talking about sustainability food, the fishery. We do have a lot of fishery industry, so it's not to take away, and I don't think the goal is to take away the culture, but it is to have people aware and spread the awareness to understand that what it is that is doing to the environment. So I think it's totally doable. And as we were speaking, and we have been speaking to the Hawaii chapter as well, the U.S., to see how we can localize this. But at the same time, it is meaningful enough that we're not just making the rules, but it is towards the final goal of doing the sustainability, to the environment. So, does that answer the question?
Si je peux me permettre d'ajouter quelque chose, c'est vrai que quand je suis venu ici, je pensais qu'on allait vraiment parler de restauration et je pense que c'est un élément essentiel et cette initiative qui est faite par les États-Unis, comme quoi finalement le pays de Trump, c'est pas toujours le pire des pays au monde. Ça reste une initiative qu'il faudrait fondamentalement penser en France. Et pourquoi je dis ça, c'est que j'ai quand même l'impression que la restauration, c'est un peu le parent pauvre de toutes ces initiatives. Quand on crée des marques et qu'on développe des marques, aujourd'hui, les consommateurs, ils vont dans les rayons et puis ils ont leur petit téléphone portable et ils nous youcatisent. Donc ils regardent toute l'origine de tout ce qu'ils bouffent de A à Z. Mais quand ils vont au restaurant, à part pour certains qui vont à Darwin ou qui vont à Saint-Jean-de-Luz, qui affichent l'intégralité de l'origine des poissons, en fait, personne ne se pose la question. Personne ne se pose la question de d'où ça vient, de comment ça a été fait, de comment travaille ce restaurant. Alors effectivement, ils ont la répression des fraudes au cul pour tout ce qui est qualité d'hygiène, superbe. Mais qu'est-ce qu'ils font des déchets? Comment ils produisent les choses? Et je pense que c'est quelque chose qui est très important et c'est bien de le faire de manière non extrémiste. Et c'est surtout ça qui est très important. C'est pas à un moment donné de cataloguer les gens, mais c'est de les aider à changer et d'aider les restaurateurs à évoluer vers des pratiques qui sont beaucoup plus vertueuses, parce qu'il ne faut jamais oublier que ce sont aussi des entrepreneurs, qu'ils ont souvent la tête dans le guidon et que ce sont des métiers qui ne sont pas faciles. On pense plus à comment on va finir la fin du mois, plus qu'à comment on va changer la planète. Mais pourtant, sur des micro-actions telles que celle-ci, je pense que c'est urgent de le faire en France.
Pardon Gilles, est-ce que Gilles et Philippe, désolé, c'était juste pour rassurer très rapidement Alexis que Surfrider Europe s'est déjà saisi de cette campagne. On échange beaucoup avec Surfrider US, on échange de bonnes pratiques et sur cette campagne particulièrement, on est en train de la développer, de la décliner, de l'adapter sur d'autres contextes européens et de la mettre en place avec l'appui de certaines antennes. Donc n'hésitez pas à vous rapprocher de nous si vous souhaitez.
So come talk to us if you want more information. Restaurants are really lagging behind in many questions of responsibility, global responsibility, either in terms of origin, transformation, processing, quality of products, but also waste. It's really complex issues, especially training. We have 6 restaurants now, and we've been looking at it for 10 years, and it's extremely difficult to find staff, people who are trained or people who are going to agree to trigger this change, because it requires more efforts than already restaurants with bags where everything is already pre-cooked, pre-processed. All the supply chain in the restaurants has changed a lot in the past 30 years. The homemade food with a logo, you see, to do the logo, you just need to do a few things by hand. So the consumer thinks that all the recipes homemade, but in fact, it's not the case. It's just 10% or 15% that is homemade. So there is a lot of work to do culturally to bring a new generation to feel like going towards a more responsible gastronomy. But you need to have to be courage. We need courage, us, the restaurant owners. We need to make decisions. Let me give you an example. Even if all the daily food is organic, we realize that 70 to 80% of the orders are the beef burgers. So I decided to keep it but when I realized that because it's easy to order with the waiters, 80% of the order is a beef burger, so we're going to remove it from the menu. So people tell me, but you're going to cut off both your legs, you're going to fail. But like when we said we won't have Coke, only organic. So we have to have a strong axe, but to succeed, we must give something in exchange. We're going to have vegetarian pizza, excellent vegetarian pizza, and we must always have an exciting solution.
Ne pas oublier qu'une décision
A courageous decision must go along with fun, pleasure.
y arrive. Moi, tu disais comment on fait pour au Pays Basque, ils adorent une gastronomie peut-être très carnée, très poisson. Moi, je bouffais de la barbaque avec des gros aloyaux de bœuf et j'adorais ça. Et pourtant, j'ai modifié mon régime vers plus de responsabilité, même si c'est pas encore ça, par le plaisir retrouvé d'autres choses. Et c'est toujours ça qu'il faut avoir en tête, c'est toujours apporter une solution et pas qu'un problème.
Alors moi, je voudrais juste rajouter, là on est en temps de G7, donc je regrette que le député soit reparti en vacances apparemment. Et parce que les petites mesures dont il parlait, il y a une loi qui est sortie, qui nous a occupés pendant presque 3 mois de notre vie en fin d'année dernière, la loi Egalim, qui prévoyait notamment que les collectivités devaient s'imposer un menu végétarien par semaine. Alors moi, je n'avais pas bien compris, j'ai trouvé que c'était une bonne démarche. Et en fait, de menu végétarien, c'est un parmi d'autres. Donc tu continues d'avoir l'alternative et donc du coup ça ne fonctionne pas. Et donc en fait c'est ça le problème aussi, c'est qu'on n'a pas de décision politique assez forte pour faire évoluer ce qui est fondamental, puisque aujourd'hui par d'autres activités que j'ai dans le monde agricole, on a fait des calculs. Effectivement une consommation d'un régime alimentaire modifié, c'est-à-dire impliquant moins de consommation d'origine animale, arrive à diminuer l'empreinte écologique de 28%. Donc c'est quand même tout à fait essentiel. Un simple changement de régime alimentaire nous permettrait voilà, de carrément modifier le... Voilà. Et ça, il faut vraiment insister là-dessus, parce que ça a été évoqué à un moment donné dans les propositions, on va dire, de M. Macron, mais ça ne va pas jusqu'au bout aujourd'hui en termes d'arsenal législatif.
Merci. On va devoir conclure. Je dirais simplement qu'aujourd'hui, vous voyez très bien que les mesures à prendre, elles sont difficiles, elles sont courageuses et elles sont impopulaires. Donc ça lance tout le débat de l'obsession de la réélection au niveau du monde politique. Et je finis en disant que si on continue avec cette économie actuelle qui est débile et suicidaire, qui consiste à faire du profit en détruisant la nature et le vivant ou en le surexploitant, ça ne marchera pas. We have to change. On va laisser la place à des femmes. Après les garçons, que des femmes.
Si elle arrive, quand il est là.
Le micro? Ouais. Quelle heure il est? Du coup, on a 10 minutes. Non, il y en a 2 et la batterie. Non, il y en a 3 exactement. Hein? Si, elle est au courant. Patricia?
Est-ce que tu veux qu'on change les verres?
On monte sur scène ou...
Ouais, sur scène.
Là maintenant? Tu nous appelles. Ah d'accord, on fait une petite pause. Après j'ai tout fait ça, on peut dire.
Enchaîner. Oui, monte. Ouais. Et je vois pas. Ouais. Voilà, je perds. On va reprendre pour une petite conclusion en amont sur le timing. Donc, je vous invite juste à vous rafraîchir pour ceux qui sont sur place. Évidemment, n'hésitez pas chez vous aussi à vous hydrater. C'est important par cette température. Toujours le hashtag Ocean Call for this event. Ce sera le même tous les jours pour poser des questions. Et bien évidemment, le 23 août pour la délivrance de ce Ocean Call. Je vais appeler à mes côtés Patricia Ricard, en tant que grande témoin.
Let me call Patricia Ricard. Also, Pierre Karleskin, a European MP that was recently elected. He's going to tell us about his new experience. And our two volunteers, Alexandra and Vanessa, who's going to join us. They came by foot from Le Verdon, near Bordeaux, on the coast, on the beach, and they're going to tell us about what they saw on the way here. And finally, we will conclude with the exhibition opening. And there is also an exhibition hall called Art Campus in Biarritz. And artists who are committed to the ocean can promote their art and also their commitment for the ocean. Patricia, I'll give you the floor so that you can wrap up today and maybe tell us about your proposals for G7. You haven't answered yet. Thank you, Antidia. When I talk to school children, I tell them that the ocean is a mirror and it reflects our actions. When you are in a country with no supermarkets and you come back and the supermarket just open, you can see plastic shampoo bottles. So the ocean really reflects our behavior. And I often tell the children when we don't like to eat something, we put it on the side, on the plate. And when people don't like something, they put it on the beach. And this the mirror effect brings me to the conclusion that we must change, but change how, why, where. So we need models. And I see one way and a model. The model is the living matter. Biodiversity is no longer the problem, it's the solution, because we look at the laws of the living. It's not opposite to sustainable development. Living means local consumption, no more energy. So we say that we have a procedure. So we want to look at the living organisms. But biomimicry is already an inspiration. Biomimicry is already a progress. Maybe it makes us go back to observing the living. The naturalists used to have curiosities because they killed many birds to have feathers. But when they look at nature, we lost that. When we went to the moon, we looked at the planet. We no longer looked at the living. We changed scope. So maybe we should go back to the dimension of the living and more on the. We have many solutions and inspirations. As to the methods, I like the idea of doing everything backwards. We realized today that we took the highway backwards, and we realized that what works today is to do exactly the opposite of what we've been doing so far. If we do the permaculture, in the city is the opposite of what we've been doing. In fact, we have fish also. So if we say, let's go back all the way to where we got, when we get lost, we go back and try to go back to point zero. So let's go backwards. Let's follow the arrows of the living. And what's new, and it's like the question of Vertigo Lab, we must think with our head and our heart, because generosity is part of the equation, and that's the most difficult to be understood. Generosity is no longer a quality, it's no longer a talent, a gift, or something nice. It's something necessary and vital. And this sends us to the ecosystem. If you don't give to the ecosystem, you're going to die with it if you don't contribute. I think that maybe the ocean is telling us to do things differently, because when you look at a mirror, things are reverse. So we have to change, and the lessons from nature, there is only competition, there is sharing, symbiosis. But what's for sure is that an ecosystem will survive only if all its components participate in the common effort. I'm very optimistic. We have the instructions, we have the procedures, so we just have to do it. What's reassuring is that, and I understood the same thing, so for the conclusion, it's going to be hard to be different from what you said. I took a few notes this afternoon so that I will be ready for the conclusion. What you said is what I heard. The first thing I wanted to say, and it's more because of my past, I was an oceanographer, a small one. And in the different topics addressed in this conference, the biodiversity is the more complex to manage. Climate is very simple, because we know who's guilty. The greenhouse emissions, methane, and we know who's responsible. If we count the number of transmitters, artificial transmitters of these gases, you're going to find a huge number, but it will be always much less than the number of interactions between the living beings in a milliliter of water. So when I tell you that biodiversity is the most complex issue, it's the truth. Now the politician is talking to address this issue of biodiversity in politics. It's extremely complex. When I was a student, when I was doing my doctorate, PhD in oceanography, we modeled the oceans. It's simple. You have an equation. We don't know how to solve it exactly. So we have approximations, relationship among the living are not as precise. They're all approximations of reality. When I'm telling you that there is more interrelations in a milliliter of water than on the planet, so we don't know exactly what we're talking about, what are the relationships between all the living beings, so you understand how complex it is. We heard that when we talk about biodiversity, we cannot talk only about the few elements between climate change, overfishing, and pollution. Pollution is a word that can mean everything. Plus, we'll talk about plastic tomorrow. Plastic is easy. We know who's guilty. Because plastic, we're producing it. We can count the number of producers, so we can know. So we can have answers that are not complex. But I just wanted to say that biodiversity, so we need all our attention, our focus. I think that we were very kind all afternoon, and now I would like to alert you, but you already did it when you said we will die with the ecosystem that we are killing. In the press, I read it. Maybe it's not true. Jill Buff, tell us. I see that maybe this is the beginning of the 6th mass extinction.
If we are not in it, then we will end up coming extinct with the 6th mass extinction. The dinosaurs didn't die because of the meteorites. They died because the climate changed, because it was cold, because the ecosystems collapsed one after the other, and those that ate the top of the chain, the food chain, ended up dying. You said, we saw in the video before, we eat everything. So if we know this, and we've got solutions. You talked, the speakers this afternoon talked about the different solutions. So I don't like the word guilt, but we would be guilty not to act when we know that we're in danger. So we have to change. You have said that all afternoon. Something that I discovered. I've been an MEP for just over a month. We've had 4 weeks of meetings, and when you say politically you've got to change, people look at you strangely. I'm elected to an assembly which overall is quite conservative. I have epic conversations with some of my colleagues. There was a heat wave at the end of June and July, so that's enabled me to mock my fellow MEPs who said that climate change doesn't exist. But there's a very high degree of conservatism, and I think that when we were elected, everyone was saying, how do you become re-elected? So we have to work with this. We need people to be mobilized on all levels, and I think that's very important. We need the mobilization of everyone at all levels. This is what you're doing here, and that's essential. But when I mean that, I mean we need appropriation. We need to appropriate, and this is what you've done. Going to talk to people about difficulties. When I talk about appropriation, the population has to appropriate take ownership for the difficulties in this change. Vertigo Lab was explaining, I'm not sure it was disappeared to, he was saying that it's important to include local populations. When I talk about appropriation, everybody, wherever they may be, the caterers, everybody needs to appropriate the idea. Because if we all do this, then it'll lead to a more positive interaction between the stakeholders, the population, the deciders. So you've also said that we need to change things. I thought, shouldn't we just I saw if talk and should kites. We're going back to yachts with sails, so sail ships. And instead of buying our food from far away, go back to local cuisine. So, and this, as you said, what point in time did we leave that good way of life? At what point in time did we leave behind us that way of life which was good for us? You said that we need to go back to our relationship with the living. Biomimicry, bioinspiration. We need to go back to our link with living creatures. When we talk about effective protected marine areas, often they work when we include the local population, because they have maintained that link with the living creatures, and they know that they are using a resource, and if that resource disappears, they will disappear too. And that's something that we need to find again. The second roundtable discussion, I think, was very interesting to talk about food, because food is our main link to the living world. To live, to survive, and I'm deliberately saying this to shock you, but we need to kill other living creatures to survive. And I'd like to conclude by saying we managed to understand the question of biodiversity. We managed to understand it if we are able to go back to our link with the earth. I hear these big debates about the economy, politics, and the environment. If, in addition to the economy, in addition to the environment, we talk about food, we seem to think that farming is agribusiness. It's more than anything food. So if in all our debates we think about what are the economic, the environmental and food stakes, I think we have lots of solutions to these questions. Perhaps I've been too long, but that's what I wanted to say to you. Thank you. I want to ask how many oceanographers are in the European Parliament. My name is Alexandra, and with Vanessa, we are volunteers at Surfrider in Gironde, and for 1 month we walked from the north of Médoc to Biarritz, where we arrived yesterday, and we walked 230 kilometers of beaches, dunes, along the coast in 27 stages. We stopped every day. We went to meet people. We went out deliberately looking to meet people, to speak to them about biodiversity, to talk to them about what's at stake now with the ocean. And we also went to speak with interesting people who were doing things locally to protect the ocean or preserve biodiversity, to defend it, to take stock of it. And this experience was incredible for us because we met lots of very active people who do things in their daily lives, much more than we could have hoped for. It gave us an incredible energy. We're tired today because it was a very long journey. It was 230 kilometers by foot, full of meetings and exchanges. But we are full of energy now because the change you talked about is happening now. And there are lots of people who are doing things, whether it be in their professions, as volunteers, in their daily lives, as restaurant owners. We met restaurant owners who've begun to replace disposable plastic packaging with reusable packaging. We met a campsite owner who created his own farm to feed the local campsite store with organic vegetables. We went and met at surf school with ecological surf suits. So all of these initiatives are part of a bigger picture, and it was very encouraging. And to remain positive, and we're all in the same case, we're all citizens in the same world. During our journey, we had some fabulous moments opposite the ocean, just us and the sound of the birds and the waves. And we were queens of the beach, but we also carried out an observation, and we brought back a square meter concerned by pollution, and we need you to help us now for a few minutes. I'll pass the floor now over to Vanessa. I have a grain. I'm not sure if you got a grain, a little grain. It's tiny, it's red. It's 2 millimeters. It's industrial plastic. We looked at the Courant du Cher small river in the Landes. And so what we did, since the 14th of August, was to use 1 square meter of sand. This is the OSPAR protocol, and this is how much plastic we collected for that square meter. Because we've lost the raw material even before it's used. And birds have eaten this. So the experts, the politicians, come and we're going to use this little fishing net. This is not for getting birds, it's for fishing. And you can also come up. We want to find the sand. We want you to sort with Alexandra and Pierre to applaud the work of our volunteers, because they were injured walking and they weren't sure whether they could finish. They had a problem with the authorizations, but they overcame all their obstacles, and all the volunteers at Surfrider have to overcome this type of obstacle. And this Ocean Pavilion would not be here today if the volunteers didn't exist. Or the volunteers who work all year long internationally. We have Surfrider United States and Japan, Morocco not far away. And our volunteer board of directors. So thank you to all of you. And we'll finish on that point.
C'est pour toujours sur tous les littoraux du monde à s'échouer d'un endroit à un autre avec la dérive littorale. En termes d'unité trouvée, c'est vraiment la première des pollutions.
Donc ça c'est 1 mètre carré.
Ça c'est 1 mètre carré et encore on n'a pas fini, donc ça c'est le reste du mètre carré à chercher. On va être sur plus de 10 000 granulés du mètre carré de surface.
Juste encore 30 secondes de votre attention pour vous informer, pour vous remercier à toutes et à tous d'être venus aussi nombreux, d'avoir écouté ces interventions passionnantes, pour vous dire que la phase des échanges, des débats se finit. se termine.
This is the end of our discussion. Now we're going to have an exhibition opening. Of those in streaming, sorry you cannot be with us. For those who will be here tomorrow, see you tomorrow for the next day of Pavilion Ocean.
Dès qu'ils ont fini.
Ils vont venir. Donc pour le vernissage, les artistes vont bientôt, dès qu'ils ont fini d'aller à la pêche au microplastique, vont bientôt monter sur scène pour vous présenter un petit peu leur œuvre.
Ceux-là, vous avez ramassé
Ça, c'est un peu comme ça.